Shen Qi, a wealthy second generation who once had a dream of becoming a boy band. Unfortunately, due to a leg injury, my 3-year trainee career was terminated, and my dream was shattered unexpectedly. Bound a second game system. As long as you sign up for the men's team draft, you can recover your leg injury and realize your dream. The former swimming champion became his roommate. My bed and my people are both yours, great demon king, divine trainee. I will teach you what you want, but there is a price. Stupid and sweet top tier. Bai Fumei. I have saved my little money and am ready to support you. This guy with his goddess face. Are you a straight man? Under the direct male slayThe, lead singer with a cool and ethereal aura, adult. I'm not too cold, I only warm you up. Domineering childish popular male team captain. Let's discuss how to stir fry CPHumorous and witty campus male god. We are the best partners and soulmates. My former good friend turned into a broker. I am the capital behind you, Shen Qi. I just want to realize my dream. No entertainment industry prototype, all character designs are original, borrowed from the 101 series draft, but will be modified by magicNon NP, by 1v1 shares. Chapter 1. Binding System. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. At night, footsteps echoed in the empty corridor. This is the place where the contestants of Idol 101 Live, with rooms closely adjacent to each other, similar to the dormitories used during school. But for a wealthy second generation like Shen Qi, he has never lived in such a crowded place before. I heard there is still a room for 4 people inside. It's simply too scary. Shen Qi cursed in a low voice, then wrapped his windbreaker tightly. In some shabby place, the night was really a bit cold. He once had an idol dream and even argued with his family about it. He worked as a trainee in a famous overseas star-making factory for 3 years. The life of a trainee is very difficult, but he has money and bought a high-end apartment near the company. He has never wronged himself. But his dreams shattered too quickly, and he had not yet been able to make his debut when he suffered a knee injury and was unable to engage in high-intensity training. Desperate and disheartened, he eventually returned home feeling disheartened, using pleasure to numb himself. He only occasionally dreamt back and remembered the difficult life of a trainee, but tears still wet the pillow core. That is a fragile dream of a young man, but it has also opened up brilliantly without progress. However, the flowering period is too short. And one day, he accidentally discovered that his good friend was secretly playing a second game called 101 Heartbeats. He naturally wasn't interested in such a girlish name. He chose to secretly download it in private, but at the moment he logged in, he saw a young trainee with a youthful smile. Enter your name. By a stroke of fate, he entered his own name. Shen Qiao, the little trainee, introduced himself on the screen. My name is Shen Qi, and I am about to participate in a variety show for a men's team selection to achieve my dream. Will you support me? Hear the word dream. He felt a feeling of waking up from a dream. He is Shen Qiao, but no longer the boy chasing dreams. My dream shattered. However, the next day when he woke up, he found that he had something systemic on his body. System 101. Hello, host, System 101. I am your System 101, what is a system? He has only heard of it in online articles. However, in his mind, the metallic and cute voice began to intimidate and lure him. System 101. Don't you still want to be an idol? I can help you fulfill your dream, System 101. As long as you obediently do tasks, conquer task targets, and have everything from money to fame and fortune. Shen Qi. Fame and fortune are not necessary. Money, I have plenty. System 101. Why are you so cold? I know what you crave in your heart. Do you want to regain your legs and stand on stage again? Shen Qi. You can find someone else. System 101. Please. As long as you are willing to help me with the task, you can recover your legs, realize your dreams, and I can gain energy, which is a win-win situation. Otherwise, they will be wiped out, moaning. The electronic sound is playing coquettishly, which is a bit chilly. Shen Qi also felt that life was a bit boring now and casually asked, "What tasks?" System 101. As a beginner in the beginner stage, let me first post you a beginner task. Novice task. Registration for Idol 101, not completed. Idol 101. He had also heard of this program. Although he deliberately avoided the news, it still inadvertently entered his mind, and then became full of sour emotions. The theme of Idol 101 is to select the top 10 trainees with the highest number of votes through a popular vote from 101 trainees to form a popular boy group. The rules are also very simple and rough, which is a round of stage competition plus one round of voting, adopting an elimination system. This is also a demonic trend blowing from overseas. It seems that everyone has a strong enthusiasm for selecting members of their idol group, which not only makes the participating fans feel a sense of participation, but also provides a good cultivation experience for the trainees they like. Now that this demonic trend has spread to China, some people have doubts about it, while others believe that it can bring a different experience to the silent entertainment industry. Perhaps it can be as explosive as the country of baseball. The quality of the trainees sent here is somewhat uneven. Some people think it's an opportunity, but others think it's just a matter of having more resumes before debut. The difference is simply treating this temporary residence as another employee dormitory or hotel. System 101. Let me give you another beginner gift pack. System 101. Be sure to take a look, it's what you want. Shen Qi chose to click to claim in her mind. They have healthy legs without any injuries. Equivalent to an opportunity to return to the stage and realize one's dreams. Ah, it is indeed what he wants. System 101. However, this one has an expiration date, and now the countdown is only 2 days left. System 101. But as long as you actively complete the task, you will be given permanent usage rights. Shen Qi felt that he might have been mentally deranged, and perhaps this voice was also imagined by his brain. Let his legs return to a healthy and injury-free state. This can all be explained by non-science. Do you have superpowers? However, when he got up from bed, he naturally and smoothly recalled a difficult stage and completed it perfectly. Perhaps this is a miracle of a dream. That's why he appears here. Some are unwilling, some are not willing to accept their fate. He stopped and coincidentally, a gust of wind blew through his hair, revealing a fair and slender neck on one side, so white that it dazzled his eyes, much like a fairy traveling at night in Liaozhai. He is not really a fairy, even if he has a demon-like body. A face that sways in the heart, with exquisite and perfect facial features, and a pair of eyes that are as transparent and shallow as glass, as if filled with all the coolness and beauty in the world. The eyelids are thin and the eye sockets are deep. Whether looking forward or gazing, those beautiful eyes give the impression of laziness. The eyelashes are dark and easily arouse the deep affection of others. With a raised nose and lips, male and female are indistinguishable. But his sharp and raised eyebrows and straight nose bridge blend this delicate femininity with the natural elegance of heroism, while also making his temperament particularly intoxicating, like a fairy-like demon. Shen Qi looked up at the name posted on the sign at the door, confirmed it was this one, and then pushed the door in. Just met the person inside with both eyes. Shen Qi maintained a slightly better expression of skin smile and flesh not smile, and the other person took the lead in looking away. The guy inside who is going to become his roommate next is currently wearing a bathrobe, holding a towel in his hand, and his hair is also wet. He is probably planning to wipe his hair, but the most awkward thing is not this. His bathrobe is open in a wild and unrestrained form. Oh ho, you have a good figure. Shen Qi ignored the opponent's black face and blew a whistle. His personality is such a wicked taste. But everyone is a man, so this embarrassment is not a big deal. The roommate quickly remembered that it was during a competition and said, "Are you a new roommate?" After speaking, Hein felt embarrassed and immediately wrapped himself in his bathrobe, no longer being a gentleman. "It's your dad," Shen Qi added as a meme. But the other party clearly didn't understand his cold humor, so they turned around and returned to the bathroom. After coming out again, Shen Qi saw a facial mask essence with a black facial mask. "Hello, I'm Shen Qi." Thinking about future competitions, they probably will always be roommates, and Shen Qi decided to prioritize being a roommate. "It's not convenient for me to talk to you now," Hein said simply because it's time to apply facial mask. Shen Qi couldn't help but think, is it even harder for the other party to handle than him? But the facial mask essence handed him his mobile phone, showing his beautiful WeChat QR code. "Scan the QR code pattern above and add me on WeChat." Looking at the small text below the QR code, Shen Qi restrained his embarrassment and quickly took out his phone to scan the code and added me as a friend. After the verification was passed, he looked up again and saw the strange roommate sitting elegantly at the table, leisurely soaking his feet and playing with his phone. Shen Qiaocheng shook his phone, indicating that he had completed the task and walked towards his bed. Unfortunately, just as he was taking a step forward, he accidentally stepped on the accumulated water on the ground, causing his heart to thump and his feet to slip. What a great embrace! The other person had just come out of the bathroom, with a hazy and damp mist all over her body. The water on her hair had not dried at all, and trickled down the smooth skin of the young man, making Shen Qiao's cheeks feel a hint of coldness. That's right, at this moment his cheeks were pressed against the opponent's particularly imaginative large chest muscles. Not only that, but he could also see the 8-pack abs and sexy mermaid lines when he lowered his head. His roommate is still a sunny guy who enjoys exercising. Shen Qi chooses to raise his head. The other person's face looks as black as the bottom of a pot. If he is correct, it is because he is now wearing a black facial mask. Then there was a snap. It was the sound of the facial mask falling into the foot wash basin, which aroused water spray, and then exposed the white and beautiful face under the facial mask. It turns out his face is not black, Shen Qi sighed inwardly. Shen Qi took the opportunity to activate his thick-skinned skills, calmly got up from Hein, and picked up the phone that fell to the ground with him. Upon seeing the notification of a new message on the phone page, he calmly explained, "Who sent me a message?" While pretending nothing had happened while speaking, I took a photo of my clothes, even though the dark water stains on the light-colored windbreaker were constantly reminding me of the farce just now, and I casually searched for new news on my phone. 1 minute ago. Originating from an unfamiliar WeChat account that just added a friend and hasn't had time to make a note yet. I am Hein. With a ding-dong sound in my mind. Target audience. Hein favorite rating. 30. Chapter 2. Love stickers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Soon, a knock on the door finally put an end to this silent awkwardness. A gentle voice from a little sister came through the door panel. Is Shen Qi there? Shen Qi had already come out of the bathroom and heard the sound outside the door. She couldn't help but turn her head to look at her roommate, who happened to be also looking at him. The two of them were once again destined to gaze at each other like fate. Hein nodded weakly. Shen Qi took off his coat, which had been stained with water, and wrapped it around his arm. Inside was a white silk shirt, made of soft and fitting fabric. It was tied up in black jeans, making his waist appear thinner and his legs longer. Unconsciously, it exuded a lazy temptation. Outside the door was the staff of the production team, a sweet-looking little sister with long, shiny black hair and a flowing white dress. Her makeup was exquisite. Shen Qi was startled when she saw the white dress and black long straight, and looked at the other person's crimson and slightly black lips. Yeah, it's currently 12 o'clock in the evening. Has the child finished eating yet to wipe their mouth? In the middle of the night, Miss Ka Sadako seemed to have been startled by him, looking up and staring blankly at his face. On the face of that demon, there was still water on Hein's chest muscles, like a white rose dipped in dew, and those eyes seemed to have a moist watery glow all year round. The flow of their eyes made one's breathing stop. As Shen Qiaoquan's expression on the king's face was about to tense up, Miss Shenzi finally remembered the right thing. I handed him a task card and also included a printed copy of the dormitory regulations. Shen Qi looked at the thin but printed regulations on dormitory standards. Damn it, he couldn't have been sent to some concentration camp, could he? Why is there a rule on what time to sleep and what time to wake up? Besides recording, there are also classes every day. He raised his eyebrows expressionlessly, showing a cool and indifferent demeanor. After thanking him softly, Shen Qiao slammed the door shut. And the knocking outside the door rang again. Is there anything else? Shen Qi looked at her in confusion. Here are your training clothes and formal attire, he said, handing him another pile of clothes. The training uniform is sponsored by a certain sports brand, and in addition to the large brand logo, it almost has sponsored by a certain brand pasted on it, and also has the corresponding player's name pasted on it. Shen Qi didn't expect her name to become a fashionable element on clothes one day, but it was just a slap in the face of this big name tag. The contestant's formal attire is a British-style navy blue suit paired with a white shirt, which seems to have a similar design to the aristocratic school uniform he previously studied abroad. One of its advantages is its ability to plagiarize. Shen Qi took it over to express his gratitude, then turned around and slammed the door shut again. The sound of the door closing suddenly stopped the sound of Sadako outside, and her exquisite makeup twisted for a moment. Why don't you let her in and take a look? She did some makeup to see Hein at night, but she just glanced at the door and didn't see anything. Later on, it seemed like something was on my mind, and my expression finally stopped twisting. This new little brother also feels very attractive. I just took a few close-ups and felt like he was going to die of happiness when Hein woke up early in the morning. He was startled. In a daze, I saw the morning light passing through the curtains and leaving a figure by the window. His early drowsy bug finally ran away and realized that he was a new roommate. Shen Qi turned his head when he heard the commotion, his eyes gloomy, his coffee still steaming hot, and the smoke drifting upwards in waves. He looked like a fairy with a twisted silk hole. Hein was startled by this association and looked around the room. In the corner of the room, a dense white mist rose up. Isn't it a twisted hole? The key is. His air humidifier is still on. Angry again, he turned his head to look at Shen Qiao. His eyes pricked again. Oh, it wasn't his facial steamer that was still emitting white smoke on the table. Shen Qi actually smiled back at him, not as eerie as he had seen last night. It was probably the atmosphere set off by white mist, combined with the blurry morning light. It was a Mary Sue version of the soft light filter that was suitable for the timing, location, and people. Hein's mind returned to him with a cloud-like smile in a daze. Good morning. Shen Qiao held her chin and watched the beautiful man wake up early. After finishing, she didn't know when she would start staring again. Hein was startled by his voice and his pants got stuck on his calves before lifting them up a few times. He is really being psychologically cast by this demon. If we look at Shen Qi from this perspective, it is indeed a good way to appreciate a beautiful man. Hein has his back to him, a pair of straight and slender long legs, and his legs are playing with Nian. Of course, Hein couldn't ignore the sharp gaze behind him, even though he was very confident in his figure. The iron boy should be so sunny and confident, and his movements of changing clothes intentionally slowed down, showcasing the handsome sunshine boy's every move. Until later, you're procrastinating. Why are you so hairy? Where are there so many skincare products? Is there something wrong with blowing your hair in the morning? Are you okay? I'm waiting for you to have breakfast. All right. Right away. The details of the turtle hair in Hyen's movements made Shen Qiao feel like she was waiting for her girlfriend to put on makeup and go out. Even more miraculously, Hein actually applied some makeup to his face. What is this? He was greatly shocked. Nude cream. Hein's answer was very natural. These skincare products, including this bottle of nude cream, were all given by his kind-hearted cousin, and using them daily with self-discipline is what is called love being consciousness. But in Shen Qi's eyes, it's strange and smelly. What a narcissistic guy. However, when it comes to narcissism, Shen Qi should be the first. With her beautiful skin, she belongs to the category of lazy cancer athletes in skin care, and makeup is also a minefield for straight men. Even in her previous career as a trainee, she liked to wear a plain face full of collagen, and compared to others, she was confident that she would never lose. But the reason why Shen Qi is waiting for Hein is because of the new task released by System 101 this morning. It's simply inexplicable that his roommate became his strategic choice. According to System 101, it is probably because of contact with his body, even if activated. Shen Qi thought about the highly elastic chest muscles. Forget it, it's not a loss. The task I got up this morning was to stick with Hein for 5 minutes. The reward for completing the task is to increase the usage time of healthy legs by 1 hour. TSK, you're really stingy. So, when Shen Qi lifted Hein's shoulder and made sure to drag him to breakfast. My mind is full of tasks. Stick for 5 minutes, is that okay? And Hein's expression was even more bewildered. If he was kidnapped, he would blink his eyes. Hein blinked several times in a row. He turned his head to look at Shen Qi and organized his language and expression in his heart. With a handsome face paralyzed, he said, "Can you stop pulling me?" Shen Qi turned his head and knocked him a chestnut on the forehead, glaring at him angrily. Shen Qi said, "Brothers cultivate their emotions in this way, which is a normal behavior." After speaking, he deliberately made a fuss and said, No, you don't have no friends, do you?" Hein remained silent, while her ears quietly turned red. At this moment, he was still immersed in the power of Shen Qi's glare, especially at such a close distance. His beauty was truly a powerful weapon. System 101 prompt. Target character Hein's favorability has increased, Hein favorability. 35 Shen Qi sighed inwardly that he was still a person with a different appearance. I couldn't help but think of his shameless behavior last night, and the corners of his mouth slightly curled up. Hein, can you let me lie on your bed? I haven't made it yet, someone said with a thick face. The matter of sending a few things to do, and who is your younger brother? Hein refused him with righteousness. If you haven't laid it yet, lay it now. I didn't bring my bedding. Hein's younger brother, if you hit the ball, just take me in for a night. I'm so tired. After being condemned by the other party's gaze, Hein lay alone in his single bed with a luxurious Simmons mattress in a good mood. As soon as he was in a good mood, he remembered that there seemed to be a pile of 4-piece bedding sets given to him by the program team in the dormitory. Pointing to the cabinet, he said, "There seems to be another set of programs sent by the production team below. I haven't used it before. You can take it and store it yourself." Shen Qi looked at him with a condemning gaze. Slowly moving to the edge of the cabinet, the cat took out the set of bedding from under the cabinet. First, he pointed at the rustic countryside flowers on it with disdain, but they were still bright red. Then, he slowly tidied up the bed. After tossing around for a long time, it was already midnight. Shen Qi said, "Our wealthy young master cannot do this job." After finally lying in bed and squinting for a while, before falling asleep, I was completely drowsy by the itching emanating from my body in the middle of the night. I went to the bathroom and looked in the mirror, and there were red dots on my body. In this state of depression, Shen Qi watched as Hyen's sweet sleeping face made her teeth itch with hatred, and she looked like a baby, with a faint blush on her face, indicating a sweet dream. So when Shen Qi accused Hyen of being overly sensitive because the damn bed was not clean and he sat up all night until dawn, Hyen fell silent. He felt like he was a bit excessive, but vaguely sensed something was wrong between them. Finally, Shen Qi hammered the sound with one stroke. Alright, from now on, your bed must be split in half with me. Then he rudely patted Hein's shoulder. Step aside, let me catch some sleep. Hein didn't respond, and an exclamation mark flashed on his head before finally stopping at 3 question marks. He stiffly moved inside, and Shen Qiao forcefully pushed and knocked him down. This is really embarrassing. Chapter 3. Multiple Brothers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Before it was morning training time, Shen Qi was called over again by the staff of the program team. After knocking on the door and receiving a response, Shen Qi pushed open the office door. Sitting at the desk was a girl with short hair and glasses, who didn't look very old. She first introduced herself to Shen Qiao, who is Elsa, the director of Idol 101, and also the leader of their directing team. Shen Qiao nodded, and Elsa briefly introduced them to their work, then the conversation changed. Although you are a contestant who participated directly without an interview, we have also prepared a corresponding plan for you, she said, looking for a printed copy from the table. Shen Qi probably understood what she was secretly referring to, which was probably the so-called program script of internal entertainment, and he felt a bit contemptuous from it. He took the paper with both hands, wanting to feel the power of capital. It was as light as a feather, just a thin sheet. A gust of wind blew in through the open window, and then the paper was blown to the ground. Shen Qi bent down to pick up the paper, and upon closer inspection, he realized that not even half of the paper had been filled at the beginning. It made people goosebumps. Shen Qiao was intimidated by this magical beginning and couldn't help but recite aloud, "If one day my ideals were soaked in wind and rain, would you be willing to turn back and help me? If one day I am unable to move forward, would you be willing to give me a warm encouragement? If I stand on stage, would you be willing to give me a scream? If given a chance, would you choose to walk with me? If I also really need your future, would you be willing to see me shining and shining on stage, no longer wandering?" Shen Qi frowned and faintly heard laughter. Elsa coughed lightly and said, "Sorry, this is the line for our promotional video." She flipped through the files on the desktop and handed Shen Qiao another piece of paper. That piece of paper finally doesn't look empty anymore, it's filled with words of dragons and phoenixes dancing. Shen Qi looked from top to bottom and didn't read it out this time. The familiar sentence pattern with a trembling soul begins. He is the proud son of heaven born with a golden spoon in his mouth. Why did he give up his studies and wander in a foreign land? He is a handsome wealthy young man, why is he sweating in his small practice room? Why is he living a difficult life with a low trainee salary despite his wealthy family? Having a dream in his heart, the shining idol on stage is the person he most wants to become. Let's start another paragraph. Suggested persona. Rich and young also have idol dreams. Life winners are rich and handsome, willing to become ordinary dream chasers, just to become a national idol, a dream-driven exchange experience of life, and to change oneself for the sake of dreams. Shen Qiao could not help but take a swipe at the corner of his mouth when he saw this. Combining the lines of the promotional film he just saw, he could not help but roast. Is this really metamorphosis? The smile seemed even more pronounced, and the entire office was filled with a cheerful atmosphere. Elsa's unsmiling lips curved slightly and said, Isn't that very fitting for your persona?" Shen Qi didn't expect that they had already figured out his background thoroughly. "But when I think about his good friend being a big loser, Xingling Xiao is his good friend who secretly played 101 Heartbeats, but he also has an identity as the owner of a certain entertainment company." Because Shen Qi decided to participate in the draft, his father was so angry that he had high blood pressure that he stopped all his cards overnight. He refused to come back and inherit the family business, so he didn't recognize him as his son. So, during the days before Shen Qi joined the group, he would go to Xingling Xiao to eat and stay. Xingling Xiao was so shocked that he couldn't even close his chin when he learned he was going to participate in Idol 101. But that silly dog is also very naive. He thinks Shen Qi is so handsome, he sings well, dances well, and definitely gets popular. With a big wave of his hand, he opened the company and together with Shen Qi, they shared half of the company's shares. He watched the program with peace of mind, along with Shen Qi's agent. And Shen Qi went out to do business and also sold himself to join the group. Of course, this is Idol 101. I heard from Xing Lingxiao that he has already prepared some things for him. Is it this unremarkable script? This script is too rough, not even the outline. Shen Qi nodded casually and said thank you. I have already decided in my heart to rely on myself. Shen Qi sat in front of the mirror in the dressing room, holding a brush in one hand, brushing his face left and right. His gaze moved with the magical hand, only to find that apart from his face being slightly pointed, his eyes slightly larger, and his nose slightly straightened, there seemed to be no distinction. Although makeup didn't give him a very good feeling, it was still feminine, but this feeling was indeed novel. Shen Qiao looked at himself in the mirror, and the corners of his mouth were even harder to suppress than AK's. I'm too handsome, right? The hand holding the brush paused for a moment. Chen Jiming spoke silently, what are you doing? There is a hint of Taiwanese tone in his voice, but when he speaks, it is very natural. Shen Qi raised her eyes and met Chen Jiming in the mirror. He suddenly became interested and said, how long have you been a makeup artist? Do makeup artists also have men? Chen Jiming's white eyes were about to roll up to the sky, staring silently at Shen Qiao. Apologize to me quickly, I feel offended. I think you are so funny. As a straight ground beetle. Shen Qi actually listened happily and sincerely apologized to him. Afterwards, Chen Jiming began to answer his questions slowly. I'm not a makeup artist, I'm just a trainee like you. Also, please. Makeup men also have many, very normal, good looks. Shen Qi was aroused by his coquettish ending, which made her feel uneasy, and she touched the back of her hand. Chen Jiming looked at his somewhat unresponsive expression and laughed heartily, trembling with excitement. Shen Qi felt that the laughter seemed to make people feel even more uneasy, and he planned to gently remind Chen Jiming. It's better not to laugh, it feels like spring is coming. The smile on Chen Jiming's face instantly solidified, and the shadow on his hand brushed heavily against Shen Qiao's face. Shen Qi asked in confusion, what's wrong? Chen Jiming looked at Shen Qiao in the mirror, her face becoming slightly asymmetrical due to the moment she lost her strength. He let out a faint breath and then put on a smile that Shen Qiao couldn't understand, implying, fortunately, I'm just a trainee like you, not a makeup artist. Otherwise, you wouldn't know if your program would ruin your appearance any day. Shen Qi couldn't help but understand the implied threat in this sentence, and gave a casual smile. Sword eyebrows and starry eyes, full of vitality, different from his overly bright appearance. However, his smile is very clear, like the surface of a lake under the sunshine, sparkling with spring. It was Chen Jiming who suddenly laughed and hit his younger brother's heart, causing his heart to thump. Although he didn't originally like this overly seductive handsome guy, when he first met Shen Qiao, he had some small opinions about him. Judging from the demonic appearance inside, he didn't know how coquettish it was, but it was inevitable that he admitted that he was sour about Shen Qiao's appearance. But this smile made him look very different. This dazzling is not that seductive, this is not any seductive cheap guy, it's just a sunny and beautiful young man. It seems that this gorgeous and sexy appearance is the rarest, SSR. I can. Under Chen Jiming's careful embellishment, his eyebrows were shaped like sharp blades, giving off a hint of unbreakable arrogance in this beauty. When he had no expression, the obvious laziness in his eyebrows was like a beautiful cloud of smoke, and his affectionate expression was silently rejected. Then the next second, Shen Qiao fell back into the mirror and smirked at her beauty. Chen Jiming. It turned out to be a Narcissus boy. Afterwards, their conversation was also very harmonious. Shen Qi learned from Chen Jiming that the program host came to record today and invited a legitimate and popular celebrity, so the makeup artists went there. Chen Jiming, being friends with the makeup artist and having good makeup skills, helped her friend with his makeup. So you're still a beauty blogger. You're amazing. Chen Jiaming has also become accustomed to his heartless style in conversations. Although sometimes his straightforward speech still confuses him, it is still very cute to balance his appearance. Okay, what else is unforgivable for a loyal Yengo? Shen Qi also thought that this trainee had a good personality. Although there were some strange things that made him feel strange, from the fact that Chen Jiaming was willing to help his friend with his makeup, he could tell that this person was a loyal and enthusiastic person. He's a good brother. Then you can worship me. He asked Chen Jiaming, why are you participating in the competition? Are you saying Idol 101? Make good friends, Chen Jiaming chuckled again. Shen Qi heard the coquettish smile that made his scalp tingle again, and forced his scalp to interrupt his laughter. Making friends is great. The tone was very harsh. No problem, multiple brothers and multiple paths. Chen Jiaming seemed to have thought of something funny when she heard his words. She didn't laugh out loud anymore, but narrowed her eyes and deepened her smile on her face. Shen Qi's heart was pounding with this small gaze, as if she had been treated as prey. In this unknown danger, there is a saying that goes, what's a dog? Chen Jiaming casually replied, is it necessary to strive for the survival of the country? Are you also from a same.sex/dating website? At this moment, Shen Qi said, strive for wealth and honor, do not forget each other. Chen Jiaming. Chapter 4. Self-Introduction. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At this point, he had already put on Shen Qiao's makeup and looked at the dressing room, but there was still no one there. He sighed. What do you want to do with your hair? Let's first say that I can only do makeup for you, and I can only do some hair for you casually. Shen Qi looked at himself in the mirror, which was a bit different from before he put on makeup. He was not blind, but of course he could see the difference. His facial features seemed to be more profound, his contours deepened, and he seemed to be a bit more handsome. Of course, it's not to say that she wasn't handsome before. Anyway, is she too handsome? She doesn't look like the male lead, like the second male character who is about to be slapped in the face anymore. Shen Qi rubbed her face and pondered. That's okay too. Upon hearing his simple answer, Chen Jiaming was not very happy. He carefully looked at his work and said, forget it, let me help you fluff your hair a bit. It was done quickly this time. However, at the end, Chen Jiaming had a sudden idea to apply lipstick to him. Shen Qi's calm face couldn't be held back. As a straight man, how could he paint such a slutty thing? Don't do it. Then he was horrified to see Chen Jiaming take out a lipstick from his pocket. Opening the lid, I first applied it to myself and forcefully pursed my lipstick, making a loud and exaggerated sound. Surprisingly, I even leaned over to show Shen Qiao the lipstick on his mouth. Shen Qi's expression immediately changed when he saw him, and his eyes were complex. Are you always wearing lipstick? He stared at Chen Jiaming's lips, looking pink and tender, like a girl's mouth. He honestly expressed his thoughts. Chen Jiaming is very satisfied, this is the famous, straight man slaying. Do you want me to print it on your face? She pouted and leaned in. Shen Qi's expression immediately became very frightened. Hello pervert. Upon hearing these words, Chen Jiaming's smile disappeared, almost revealing a slightly injured expression to the naked eye. Shen Qi didn't expect the other party to have such a glassy heart, so he quickly made up for it. It's very beautiful, come on, boldly imprint it on my face, I can handle it. She said, closing her eyes as if facing death. The expression on Chen Jiaming's face suddenly cleared up, and she smiled lightly. This is not enough, I not only need to print it on your face, but also on your mouth. Shen Qi struggled inwardly for a moment, but still closed his eyes tightly. Forget it, he sacrificed himself for others, although the word abnormal was still spoken in his heart. Holding his breath and waiting for a few seconds, a gentle touch landed on his lips. Really? I'll make a big mistake. Shen Qi suddenly opened his eyes, and a lipstick was falling on his lips. The next second, Chen Zhiming lifted his chin and his gaze fell on his lips. With serious examination, he saw Shen Qi open his eyes, overlapping his gaze, and then showed a smile. A ding-dong sound in my mind. Target audience. Chen Zhiming favorite rating. 40. Shen Qi had a conversation with the 101 system in her mind. Even if roommates are okay, why is Chen Zhiming still a target for strategy? System 101 Gold Customer Service Online Service. Because you just had indirect contact, Shen Qi. What indirect contact? System 101. Keywords. Lipstick, Shen Qi. The system of dog shit actually made him discover a flashy spot. He used Chen Zhiming's lipstick. Is this considered an indirect kiss? The conversation with the system in my mind was inaudible to others and happened very quickly. In a blink of an eye, I looked up again and found that Chen Zhiming was still laughing. He really loves to laugh. Shen Xiaoguang has been chatting with him for a while, and he laughs many times, and it's still the kind of face changing that can grab a horse. 1 second he turns his face, the next second he can laugh again, or he suddenly turns his face while smiling. Shen Qiao couldn't help but sigh. The hearts of boys nowadays are also fickle. In addition to the laughter that really made him goosebumps, his way of laughing is also very versatile. He grins lightly with his eyelids rolled over, a slightly arrogant smile when angry, a shy smile when covering his mouth, or a slightly sarcastic but cheerful laugh when hearing something funny. Purely Shen Qi. I have learned. After applying lipstick to him, Chen Zhiming took a few steps back and lifted her chin arrogantly, gesturing for him to look in the mirror. Shen Qi stared at his own reflection in the mirror, not noticing the difference in lipstick on his lips. The sticky sensation on his mouth was too obvious, as if he had rubbed his mouth against lard while eating. Chen Zhiming looked at Shen Qiao like a blind person for a while, but then found it funny. He also leaned over to look, his hands propped up on both sides of the chair where Shen Qiao was sitting. In the mirror, it looked like he was circling Shen Qiao from behind, and at the same time, his two faces looked as if they were tightly pressed together. You can tell what's wrong. Alright, sweetheart, go record it. Shen Qi glanced at Chen Zhiming upon hearing the words. Did you get your eyes done? Said casually. Chen Zhiming was also looking at her face in the mirror, but she didn't hear what Shen Qiao was saying. What are you saying? Shen Qi thought for a moment and asked politely again, did you do I? Upon hearing this, Chen Zhiming felt like she was lying down. Do I? What do I? Are you going to do I with me? The excited three questions shook Shen Qiao's chair, causing it to shake. Shen Qi. Oh, let me just forget about it. She stood up and put on her coat. Okay, to be honest, why am I so disappointed? Chen Zhiming pressed down on the restless little heart and told herself that you are already a mature green tea essence. No, you need to calm down. So after Shen Qi stood up, he walked over to him and carefully tidied up his collar. His fingers crossed the collar and paused for a moment before finally unbuttoning the top 2 buttons of his shirt. Shen Qi looked inexplicable, but remembered the new task that the system had just released to him. Completed pasting with Chen Zhiming for 5 minutes, Shen Qi. Take it for granted, let's just consider it as 1 hour of healthy leg usage rights. Be obediently at the mercy of Chen Zhiming. The buttons on the top of the shirt were slowly unfastened, revealing a fair, milky skin. Chen Zhiming couldn't help but touch the row of delicate collarbones that were already barely visible, making it impossible to move her eyes. Shen Qiao trembled sensitively in response. Why do you still touch and touch? Shen Qi retreated somewhat unnaturally. As the fingers left the skin with excellent tactile sensation, they still twirled in nostalgia, as if they could still feel the delicate warmth. Chen Qi smiled strangely and said, "Baby, I'm really falling in love with you." Shen Qi is currently recording self-introductions of trainees, each with a length of about 1 minute. However, they need to introduce themselves or perform their talents in front of the camera, with the purpose of soliciting votes for themselves. In order to better showcase themselves in front of the audience and gain attention, most trainees have creatively designed small scripts to highlight their unique traits. He joined the group relatively late and was already the last batch of recorded contestants. Most of the previously recorded ones had already been edited and uploaded online, attracting a large wave of popularity before the program even started broadcasting. Before the recording started, the director also patted his shoulder to show encouragement. At this moment, he had no red blood in his eyes and looked in excellent mental state, still a happy middle-aged chubby man. Speaking of the show, Idol 101, the director is also very ambitious. Wait and tremble, the entertainment industry. Shen Qi. Is it right or wrong for him to participate in this program? It's also quite difficult to have a self-introduction that the audience remembers. The director said that his agent had prepared filming props for him in advance. Next, Shen Qi saw Xing Lingxiao appear, looking like a dog and holding a little kitten in her arms. It is precisely in Xing Lingxiao's villa that the two take care of the little Princess Casey together. I just went shopping and also did a pet grooming for it, it's really a coincidence. Shen Qiao took the cat and saw a majestic-looking cat with a snow-white body, gray patches on both sides of the cat's face and head, short and blue-white, and bright eyes. At first glance, Shen Qi and the cat's eyes met, and they were intimidated by the cat's inherent contempt of the king aura. Reaching out his sinful hand, he slapped his furry cat face, causing the kitten to turn its head and shake it coldly without hesitation. Shen Qi noticed again that the tuft of hair on the top of the cat's head was very unique and independent, standing there with a bent and unrestrained look. Pet grooming. Xing Lingxiao smiled and said, "I just made it a popular tinfoil hot stamping this year." Shen Qi looked at Xing Lingxiao with an accusing gaze and said, "Did you make a scumbag tinfoil perm for the cub? You don't have a big head, do you?" As Shen Qi spoke, Xing Lingxiao even touched the back of his head and said, "No bag, no bag." Even wearing elegant and despicable golden glasses today, he still looks like a silly dog. "Shen Qi, are you ready? We're about to start filming." The director adjusted the equipment on the side and started filming. "Okay, director, I'm ready. Action." "Hello everyone, I am Shen Qiao from Xingshi Entertainment, 18 years old, standing 181 meters tall, and practicing for 3 years. The weather is really nice today, and I even brought my friends to the scene." The camera moved as he bent over to the friend, who was collapsing into a cat pancake on the ground. As the camera suddenly retorted, "I was so angry that I lifted my paw and was about to give it a bloody one." Shen Qi immediately grabbed Casey's paw and forcefully picked it up regardless of its wishes. "You're so good, it's saying hello to you." Shaking the cat's paws at the camera. "Hello uncles and aunties in front of the camera, remember to vote for my dad." Shen Qiao changed her voice, imitating her boyfriend's voice and speaking in a sharp and delicate voice. Then there is a small talent display segment. He even specifically communicated with the production team before about what music to play. The sound of dynamic music rang out, and he turned around with his back on his back, looking like he was wearing sunglasses. Then, as the prelude ended, he threw away his sunglasses and began dancing to the beat of the music. Of course, these sunglasses were also sponsored by Xing Lingxiao's friendship, and if they were thrown out, it would be his fault. This personal introduction film came to an end, attracting a lot of replies and attention. "I thought it was a vegetable chicken at the beginning, but I didn't expect it to be a king. Good looks and good business skills, pick it first. Brother, you are really normal. It seems so abnormal to be in a group of bumpy kilometers." There is suspicion of a tongue twister, but it was highly praised. "I don't know if the trainees are all funny guys, working together without any idle baggage. What subject 3, flower hand shakes enough, and crashes creativity. Afterwards, Shen Qi changed into a uniform and went to the studio to take formula photos and simple materials. It's much easier than he imagined, and the photographer keeps praising him for being on camera. After finishing, the staff also asked him to fill out a bunch of forms that looked like checking household registration. There are numerous and trivial questions, just like a gossiping mom: what celebrities she likes, why she likes them, why she participates in the competition, or what she thinks is most important about idols, and so on. It's like 3 or 4 pages of paper, and most of the questions he hasn't thought about are just a bunch of nonsense. After taking these miscellaneous photos, the whole morning had already passed, even if he had finished work. After bidding farewell to Husheng Lingxiao, he touched his empty stomach and went to the cafeteria for a meal. After all, he didn't sleep all night, and it's already the limit to hold on until now. When he walks up the stairs, he feels dizzy and can't even lift his feet. Plus, today is my first day at work, and I'm so hungry that I can't even find the cafeteria. He thought that Yi was already a useless Yi, so it would be better to do more with less. Moreover, he has been staring at the back of the man in front of him for a long time. A person, dressed in black and wearing a black duckbill cap, walked leisurely. But as soon as Shen Qi thought that this guy was walking at a speed almost as slow as this useless person, he roughly knew the essence of this old man. System 101 is currently experiencing bubbles. If you're not feeling well, you can try to conquer the target character. After completing the task, you can choose a reward to restore energy. It also seemed to notice that Shen Qiao had been staring at the Lone Ranger ahead. System 101 quietly urged, physical contact can also add new strategic goals. Move forward, Seonian, Godfather. So, accumulating all his energy, he walked briskly to the person and patted their shoulder. New strategy object has been generated, ding-dong in my mind. Target audience. Rong Shuechuan favorite rating. 70. Chapter 5. Enhancing favorite feelings. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hey handsome guy, are you alone? Said the 10,000-year dialogue in a dog-blood drama. Although this strategy mission is very pitfalls, it's still frustrating. But for steel straight men like Shen Qiao, if straight men have their own way, then they all become good brothers. But to his surprise, this conversation was already his limit. As soon as he jumped, his eyes turned black. Shen Qiaoyi had a soft foot, so in order to avoid falling, she hugged the waist of the black-clothed man directly. The person's expression clearly expressed confusion, but the opposite was his subconscious action. He quickly turned around and grabbed Shen Qiao, holding her in his arms. Finally, the tragedy was avoided. Thank you, young hero, for your excellent skills. Shen Qiao silently felt grateful in her heart. The person said, "Are you okay?" His voice was like flowing spring water. The pleasant voice that spoke of the strange energy of yin and yang, "Are you okay?" Surprisingly, it has a healing effect. Especially when the person turned to face Shen Qiao, with fine black hair under his duckbill cap and a black mask almost covering his entire face, it could still be seen that he was a pure handsome embryo with clear eyes and distinct black and white eyeballs, appearing somewhat cold. However, the beautiful and gentle eye shape also felt that this person's personality was very soft and somewhat affectionate. But at this time, Shen Qiao successfully received a pasting task. Shen Qi weakly rubbed his blackened eye sockets, his expression appearing particularly fragile due to exhaustion and drowsiness. In a flash of inspiration, he had a brilliant idea. "I'm a bit uncomfortable, maybe I bumped into it just now," said Mr. Shen online. Perhaps his appearance was too deceptive, and the person didn't even feel suspicious. Although his expression was a bit stiff, his black hair was accidentally exposed by the wind, and his red ear tips were crystal clear. It felt like taking a bite with a spoonful of spicy sauce would be very fragrant. The handsome man took the initiative and said, "Are you okay?" Do you want me to help you sit there for a while? I have this intention. Let's go to the restaurant then. The handsome man was taken aback for a moment, seemingly unaware of the connection between the restaurant and this. He hesitated and said, "The restaurant is a bit far from here." Shen Qi quickly covered his stomach with a flamboyant expression. "Actually, I still have a slight stomach ache." After speaking, he placed his arm on the handsome man in black's shoulder, completely replicating the scene of kidnapping Hein with one hand in the morning. But due to the height difference, it looks like a koala hanging only from a tree. The handsome man in black was stunned for a moment, some unsure of how to put his hands and feet, some hesitant, and chose to hold his shoulder with one hand. Like a considerate gentleman. Shen Qiao shuddered and turned his head to look. The handsome man's hands were also very beautiful, with distinct joints. The only downside is probably that the handsome guy in black seems a bit tall. Isn't he still half a head taller than him? However, he would not admit it from the bottom of his heart, so he walked very hard, half tiptoeing. Fortunately, she was carried half by Rong Xueshuan, and after enduring those 5 minutes of pasting, Shen Qi immediately became full of vitality. The correct way to open the system is as follows: it's like sucking on a man's energy, isn't he just like a perpetual motion machine? For a moment, it led Shen Qi towards a path of no return for Nan Daji. Afterwards, Shen Qi began to happily cook again. However, the handsome guy in black in front of him didn't take off his mask the whole time. Shen Qi asked him the reason. He answered with a conscious idle attitude, "I ordered a low-fat weight loss meal." Shen Qiao thought to himself, it seemed that besides being taller than him, this person must have a slim figure like a hemp pole. He secretly compared and concluded, "I don't think I lost." Oh, it's really jealousy between damn handsome guys. When they left, they made friends with each other. Returning to the dormitory, Shen Qiao nodded coldly at the handsome man, his beautiful and flying eyes lightly raised, half smiling. The makeup he had previously put on for recording the program still adorned him like a perfect mask, making him even more extraordinary, like a cloud or smoke. The deep eyebrows and eyes are like the light of knives and swords, and the crimson lips are like a bloody kiss, completely like a pure blood demon, and also like a cunning fox fairy. The door slammed shut, and Rong Xueshuan leaned against the wall, pulling down her mask and panting softly. His profile was very beautiful, with a straight nose, light lips, fair skin, and a light complexion like a snow-covered glacier by the see-through fog. Until now, he still felt a sense of shock and disbelief in his heart. When Shen Qi returned, there was no one in the dormitory. It was time for lunch break, and although he didn't know where Hein had gone, he had already agreed with him in the morning to seize his luxurious soft bed. It must be no problem. So, unable to resist the drowsiness anymore, he threw himself into bed and fell into a deep sleep. When I woke up, I was awakened by a ringtone from an unknown radio station, reminding the contestants to attend training classes. Opening his eyes, Hein was also there, showing off his figure very comfortably. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Shen Qi was bored counting his abdominal muscles, and surprisingly, there were 8. He was such a muscular idiot. Finally, when Dehao's body was completely covered by his clothes, Hein looked up and saw Shen Qi looking at him. Hein's appearance is a popular underage dog face, with hair dyed bright golden, furry, and a small face. She has a pair of innocent and naturally dangerous drooping dog eyes, which exudes a sense of youthfulness. Sometimes you think it's a harmless milk dog, but in the next second, it will turn into a hormonal overpowering wolf dog. Indeed, these beautiful pectoral muscles, abdominal muscles, mermaid lines, and male dog waist make him look like a carnivorous little brother, right? Shen Qi looked into his eyes and was momentarily mesmerized. His eyes were still tinged with a faint gray color, not sure if it was an illusion, until she saw Hein winking at him. Shen Qiao woke up. "Did you not sleep at noon? Did you take a shower again?" Hein nodded and picked up a hair dryer to blow his hair. The whistling wind gradually filled the room, and the warm breeze made him squint comfortably. Shen Qi let out a click in his heart. Seeing his demeanor of soaking in the bathroom all day long, I dare say he had met a cleanliness-obsessed roommate. Shen Qi remembered lying in the other person's bed again and silently thought about whether he would be treated as something dirty by his cleanliness-conscious roommate, the dark shark, in the middle of the night. Hein had already blown his hair, shook his head, and his fluffy golden hair seemed to have vitality, shaking like a dandelion in the wind. He stood by the bed urging Shen Qiao to get up. Shen Qi slowly got down from the bed and watched as the person skillfully removed the sheets and covers like a hotel cleaner, packing them into a ball. Finally, he casually told him that he would only be able to get into his bed after taking a shower and changing clothes. Additionally, he pointed to the inconspicuous stains on the pillow, which were left by Shen Qiao's lazy morning makeup. I think I should at least remove my makeup before going to bed, otherwise my face will rot, she said, blinking her eyes. This is the first time I feel like you're talking too much. Then he was rushed into the bathroom by Hein, who looked down on him. Anyway, the original words were, "Wash your face clean before coming out." Shen Qi was rushed into the bathroom, feeling depressed. For the first time, she carefully looked at the bottles and jars on the wash table. Although there were many styles, the simple and elegant bottle body design gave them a harmonious integration, and the arrangement was also orderly. It was obvious that they were from someone with obsessive-compulsive disorder. He curiously picked up a jar that looked somewhat out of place due to its overly pink and tender appearance, and upon closer inspection, it turned out to be a jar of toothpaste or a strawberry-flavored one. He licked his tongue, really tasteful, strawberry brother. Of course, he also found what he needed from this pile of bottles and jars. A bottle of makeup remover, with a fierce operation like a tiger, poured it directly onto his hand and greeted it vigorously on his face. Unfortunately, the technique was too wild, and after rubbing it for a while, he felt his hands and face were all greasy. Until Hein knocked outside the door. "Okay, I need to go to the bathroom." Shen Qiao rinsed under the faucet. A real man should be so wild about removing makeup. Pushing open the door, he came out refreshed after washing his face. Hein gave him a strange glance, but soon Shen Qiao felt as if he had been sniped by a magnifying glass. He pointed to Shen Qiao's eyes, indicating that they were not completely removed. Shen Qi rolled his eyelids upwards with all his might, revealing his white eyes. Hein smiled helplessly and finally found a cotton swab, then went to the bathroom to bring a can of makeup remover. Dipped a cotton swab in some makeup remover, it brushed over the shadow under the eye. Shen Qi was stiff and dared not move, nor did he dare to look at Hein's face. It was the hand that inadvertently carried warmth that, as it brushed against his cheek, left a warm sensation, as if burning. Hein's favorability increased by 50. Chapter 6. Learning Dance. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When they arrived at the classroom in the afternoon, the people inside were already packed and wearing various training uniforms. Shen Qi suddenly realized that the colors of the practice clothes were also quite particular, with a total of 4 levels of ABCF, namely pink, blue, yellow, and gray. Looking down at my white training uniform, a huge question mark flashed through my heart. Remembering when I changed my training uniform just now, I felt that pink was too feminine, so I followed my heart and chose white. I looked at Hein wearing a gray training suit next to me. I saw the trainee in the pink training suit not far away again, and just looking at it gave me a sweet feeling of candy. That should be the white on me that looks better. After thinking about it, Hein next to him disappeared from the group of gray trainees, not knowing where he had gone. However, he still found an acquaintance in the corner of the room. Qin Jiaming, he is wearing a blue training suit, it seems that this person is a B. Compared to the trainee who was working hard to practice dancing next to him, he sat leisurely on the floor, his unique duck-sitting posture occasionally catching the attention of others. But he didn't care at all. Instead, He enthusiastically held a small mirror and kept looking at it, occasionally covering his mouth and blushing. "What are you doing?" Shen Qi walked over curiously and squatted next to him. Chen Jiaming was startled by the sound in her ear, shook for a moment, and the mirror in her hand suddenly fell to the ground. "I'm looking at handsome guys." In a hurry, he snatched the mirror from Shen Qiao's hand and rolled his eyes angrily. Shen Qi looked directly at him with a question mark on his face, as if saying, "Why are you so narcissistic?" Chen Jiaming understood his gaze and rolled his eyes wide. "Even if I'm not a handsome guy, I'm still a handsome guy that's hard to find in 100 miles. "What's hard to find?" Shen Qi couldn't hear clearly. Now Chen Jiaming smiled and said, "It's hard to find one, haha." After laughing, she changed her face and said, "Shen Qiao, can't I find one in yin and yang?" Shen Qi. "What is one?" Chen Jiaming. "Forget it, steal straight man." He continued to pick up the mirror and picked up a small one to shine everywhere. Shen Qi also curiously leaned over to take a look, only to be caught off guard by a sudden crotch thrust. Shen Qi choked silently, "So you're staring at the crotch cat." Suddenly, I felt that Chen Jiaming's blue training uniform had turned yellow. However, it was still strange. "Why don't you look at that big mirror, you want to look at this small mirror?" He couldn't figure it out, as there was a mirror as big as that wall in the practice room. Is Chen Jiaming not afraid that someone like him would cleverly discover that he looked at the handsome guy's lower body with a small mirror, and then be considered abnormal by others? Are you the 100,000 wise with so many questions? Am I too embarrassed to lie in front of a mirror and peek at others in public? Isn't that a playboy? Don't ask. Hello, annoying. Never mind, let's stay away from being too lustful. He chose to watch the trainees dance in the big mirror alone. Of course, this is definitely not a flower enthusiast, it's just because he is absent quite a bit. Watching them dance automatically activates the learning mode. When he bound the system and decided to register for the competition, the program had already interviewed the contestants and recorded a complete episode. The reason why he was able to board the bus midway was that one of the contestants fell ill and withdrew from the race, and Xing Lingxiao spared no effort in finding connections and building connections, which led to him boarding this last bus. Even the pink A training uniform in the dormitory was left by the previous trainee. However, he is also confident that he will definitely win the A level and prove himself on the initial stage in the future. However, there are less than 24 hours left until the initial stage assessment, and he must quickly learn it and perform perfectly. At this moment, the music stopped and the trainees rested to drink water. A person sat down next to him with a big smile on their face, their big white teeth shining brightly in the bright light, most likely having porcelain veneers. He patted Shen Qiao's shoulder. "Brother, after watching it for so long, are you committing a flower obsession?" Shen Qi. "You're a flower enthusiast, you porcelain veneers." He is openly stealing his master. Shen Qi looked at the handsome man with porcelain teeth in disdain. In addition to the sparkling porcelain teeth, he also wore a single diamond earring in his ear, a timeless one that flashed like a real diamond. "Let me be a flower lover, are you handsome?" With a disdainful pout, his eyes rolled back and forth, and he didn't love anyone. The handsome man with porcelain veneers had a frozen smile on his face and a speechless expression. What kind of vision are you?" "I'm not handsome yet." "I'm not as handsome as I am," Shen Qi answered honestly. "You're shameless, how can you say you're handsome?" "You're not shameless. It's you who insisted on me saying you're handsome." "I'm handsome, that's an objective fact, everyone thinks so." "How could your handsomeness become an objective fact?" "I don't know." Shen Qiao dug out his ear, and the two of them argued like XXJ. "Humph, just because I have more fans." "How many followers do you have on Weibo?" "I don't play Weibo anymore. It's boring." "Are you feeling guilty, huh?" "I have 1 million followers on Weibo." I feel a little guilty, I don't believe it. I don't have Weibo, how do I know if you're bragging? Scam ghosts, how could you not have Weibo? I just don't know what's going on. The handsome man with porcelain veneers was dissatisfied and opened Weibo, causing the page to pause in the search bar. What's your name? Shen Buckwheat. Shen Qi, which Shen? Which Qi? Finger typed out the pinyin and needed to input. Shen Qi snatched his phone, entered his name, and confirmed the search. The page skipped for a moment and finally froze on a yellow V account. I still said no, look. The handsome man with porcelain teeth clicked into the account page, and surprisingly, there were still quite a few thousand fans. This is not me. Why isn't it you? Isn't this portrait your photo? Shen Qi didn't believe in evil and pulled down this person's movements. The movements were all from a few years ago when he was in junior high school, and the accompanying pictures were indeed his own. There were also photos that he even remembered as his non-mainstream selfies back then. Some of the photos have a bit low pixel count, like they were taken secretly, even he hasn't seen them before, but the dynamics inside were indeed the familiar tone of shame in his memory, as if he had actually posted it. But he really feels like he has lost his memory. Has he ever registered a Weibo account? I looked at this person's repost Weibo again, it was even more awkward. School flower and school grass information. Fan submission. School grass Shen Qi, everyone review, is it very handsome? Attached are 9 pictures of handsome photos. The photos of middle school students are really too green and unconventional. Although I look handsome, they are so dark in history. Middle school grass Shen Qi Fan Support Association. Submit. I ran into a male god at the skating rink today. Handsome enough to be unconscious. Attached are a few photos I secretly took, for everyone to share. Surprisingly, there are such cult organizations that I don't know about. For a moment, he was really full of thoughts. He fell silent for a moment, and in an instant, a spiritual light emerged, who is peeping into my QQ space. Surprisingly, he pretended to be himself and moved to Weibo so crazily. There are also cult organizations that support fans, and he said why when he was in school, he always felt like he was being monitored wherever he went. Later, after going abroad as a trainee in high school, he never used QQ again, and coincidentally, the updates on it were not updated after he went abroad. The handsome man with porcelain teeth saw that his expression was not right and comforted him, saying, if you have any problems, let the company know. Register your official Weibo account as soon as possible, and remember to interact with the program team. Shen Qi remained silent. How I wish the internet had no memory and the glorious black history of my brother had ended. I was just a junior high school student back then. The handsome man with porcelain teeth saw him silent and took the initiative to open his Weibo homepage. By the way, my name is Yuan Haokong. You see, I have a lot of fans, right? He even refreshed the page. Then the next second, his smile solidified and his number of fans increased to 9999999. Drop powder. There are also some red message notifications appearing below Weibo. Shen Qi extended his finger and pointed a red dot. User 535452423 likes this Weibo post. User 146455343 likes this Weibo post. User 435334534 likes this Weibo post. Yuan Haokong's expression management has lost control. Shen Qiao ordered a little more. Cut off Xiaojia Weixin 68. Repost Weibo. Feng Xiong Mi G223. Forward Weibo. Huangsa Ziyuan Encyclopedia. Reposting Weibo. Now, whether it's buying Navy, zombie fans, or attracting sales, there's nowhere to hide. Yuan Haokong covered the screen of his phone and his handsome face turned slightly red. Don't look, get up and practice dancing. Shen Qi stared at him and suddenly burst into a bright smile. Big brother, you are really a good person. He was just thinking about how to cheat, so he added a skilled dance instructor, and the level of the instructor seemed quite good. He could see very clearly. Although Yuan Haokong was not as handsome as him, he said without any selfishness that Yuan Haokong still had a lot of charm when dancing. He quickly stood up and followed behind Yuan Haokong, who greeted several guys along the way. Sure enough, all the friends of the top students were top students, and everyone was between pink and blue. Yuan Haokong stood among a group of pink and blue clothes, laughing brilliantly, and also performed a team-reserved program for Shen Qiao. Hello everyone, we are Dragon.X, and I am Captain Yuan Haokong. Hello, I'm Yang Ning. I am Zhua Sichuan. Xiang Hua. Hello, Wang Changyun. Shen Qiaokai realized that they were still a group. The members all cooperated well with the captain's performance desire, standing in a row with Yuan Haokong in the middle. The five of them said in unison, "Welcome to our garden, break through the impossible, youth has no limits, Dragon X, the miracle of the dragon." The five of them crossed their arms in unison, creating a capital X shape. Shen Qi was dumbfounded. After the performance, Yuan Haokong ran over happily. Isn't it very imposing? Our group soul is the best and most burning. Yes. Shen Qiao nodded and thought to himself, if we had done this before the group fight, we probably wouldn't have finished before the fight ended. Also, what does this gesture compare to? Big fork. Is this a provocation? He asked again, is your average age 18 years old? Yuan Haokong replied, I haven't calculated it yet, but I'm still 1 month away from reaching adulthood. Xiao Ning is a few days younger than me, and Sichuan and his team are all over 18 this year. He calculated recklessly, rounded up, we're all adults, right? Shen Qi looked at him speechlessly and said, do you know how to round it up? As soon as the words fell, Yuan Haokong's teammates walked over and greeted Shen Qiao. Shen Qi was made dizzy by 5 guys whose age and immaturity were basically on the same level, especially when he looked at their faces and felt dizzy. I couldn't help but say, you look like quintuplets. 5 people, look at me, I look at you, everything in my eyes is unbelievable. How could I look like these guys x5? You can't be face blind, can you? Wang Changyun asked. Shen Qi is uncertain. Perhaps you are husband and wife. Everyone. What? The crowd was speechless. I know, this is the CP feeling. My fans like to knock on me in Xiaoning CP, which is similar to what they mean. Yuan Haokong said. I'm not CP with you, what are you talking about? Yang Ning immediately retorted. I can't talk nonsense. I have CP with Xiaoning, Sichuan, Xiang, and Changyun. I have seen fan CP articles written by them, as well as the last time the 5 of us were together. The expressions of everyone were once again speechless. Did you forget what Lucy told you? She told you not to look at the same culture, Yang Ning said. Yes, Lucy said you were rotten, it's too scary. Be careful not to let your brain and thoughts rot together. Zhua Sichuan asked curiously, what does corruption mean? Is it so powerful? Explain to Hua, corruption your thoughts and turn you into a biochemical weapon like a zombie. Everyone. Shen Qiao listened to their noisy and ambiguous conversation, with even zombies emerging. He felt a generation gap in his thoughts with them. Feeling a bit tired, I thought to myself, he just turned 18 this year, isn't he his age? Before we even have a few words to say, everyone is going to practice dancing again. When the music started playing, everyone stood up and started dancing. After jumping once, Yuan Haokong pulled out Shen Qiao from behind the team. Shen Qiao, haven't you learned this dance yet? He asked in a surprised tone, but now it's indeed a problem. Impossible, isn't it? The guys from Class F will also jump along. Are you from Class F? Shen Qi remained silent, his eyes fixed on Yuan Haokong, blinking and still joking. Actually, I'm an undercover agent from Class A of Class F. What class? What undercover agent? Which class are you from? Forgive him for having a bad brain and not being able to turn around. Class A. I just said that your level in Class A is a bit low, so you're a traitor. Shen Qi. You really don't know anything about it, don't you? Jump over and show me. Shen Qi then acted truthfully according to his level, including the little things he stole from his teacher. There is a framework, but the details are really quite lacking. Yuan Haokong frowned and looked at Shen Qiao with deep hatred as he jumped. You've taken it, haven't you learned it before? No. Yuan Haokong collapsed and said, the C position I finally got, your performance is simply ruining my stage. He added, I can't even imagine being on the same stage as you. How did your kid get involved? The air fell into a mysterious silence. Shen Qi thought to herself, what should I say? I came in through the back door. Yuan Haokong compromised first and said, okay, since I am undoubtedly the strongest ability integrator in Class A, abbreviated as the strongest man in Class A, then you, as a crane tail, must follow me to study seriously next. Shen Qiao nodded, her gaze filled with gratitude. As a crane tail, she was really shy. So the next step was for Yuan Haokong to help Shen Qi with one action at a time and start picking. Inevitably, some physical contact occurs, which makes the system, which has been dormant for a long time, begin to exert a sense of existence again. Target audience. Yuan Haokong favorite rating. 40. Shen Qiao finally understood that this system is definitely a hungry and lustful demon, and anyone will not let it go. After an afternoon of high-intensity practice, Shen Qi recorded all the movements. After all, he still had the foundation of a 3-year trainee. Yuan Haokong also has a great sense of achievement. It seems that this A is also very watery, isn't it? Take a slight look. Yuan Haokong's favorite feelings increase favorite feelings. 45. Chapter 7. Initial Stage Rehearsal. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. In order to consolidate his achievements in the afternoon, Shen Qi decided to continue working hard in the practice room at night. Coincidentally, he also discovered an excellent practice routine. This person is not close or far from him. When they are far away, there is a gap between Class A and Class F. When they are close, not only do they share the same room, but they can even coexist peacefully on the same bed. It's Hein, his dear roommate. This afternoon, he was surprised to see Hein dancing seriously in the back row in the crowd. Although his movements were movements, they were quite stiff. Shen Qi also gave him a reason. Being too tall naturally makes him appear clumsy, which is not his fault. However, Shen Qi decided to retract the evaluation of the clumsy dance posture given by Hein during the day. Because Hein works very hard, he probably knows the difference between himself and others. He comes to the practice room early every day, returns to the dormitory very late, and even spends his lunch break in the practice room. Especially when Shen Qi knew that Hein had never been exposed to dancing before and was a talented person from a wild background. Which circle did you belong to before? Shen Qi asked curiously. The sports industry. Which sport is it? Have you ever won a gold medal? Swimming, I took it before, but now it's nothing. Hein seemed to have something on his mind when talking about it, picked up the mineral water bottle and drank a big mouthful. What are you gossiping about? Are you good at dancing? Can you sing? Look at your own level, aren't you ashamed to commit suicide? Hein said this, and of course, he also knew that Shen Qi was transferred in midway, and even that A. level was inherited from the previous trainee who withdrew from the competition. However, he was surprised when he saw Shen Qiao performing a complete dance in front of him. Although his face was cold and paralyzed, there was no expression on it. "Do you want me to teach you?" Shen Qi asked Hein with a smile. Hein turned his head unnaturally and his ears were slightly red. The two of them practiced together until late at night, and Shen Qi felt that she had learned dance almost enough. Except for that song, he is actually not good at memorizing lyrics. After reviewing in my mind before going to bed, I was so tired that I fell asleep. Then, with extreme joy and sorrow, he was greeted by a bolt from the blue as he woke up to rehearse the theme song stage at night. That night, Shen Qi followed the large army to the legendary stage scene. When she first entered, the lights had not yet been turned on and it was pitch black. Apart from her three heads that looked like traffic lights in front of her, Shen Qi hardly noticed anything. The crowd was buzzing and noisy, and Shen Qi was surrounded by the crowd, feeling dizzy and bloated. Fortunately, not long after, all the lights in the room were on. The stage is actually not big, but it is quite exquisitely arranged, in the shape of a diamond. It is divided into upper and lower parts, with the upper part cut into 3 pieces and the lower part divided into a separate triangle. According to the arrangement of the director's team, the upper part is occupied by members of ABC Class 3. Class A is located at the center of the field of view, which is the center. The C position selected from Class A is the center in the center, occupying the center of the entire diamond stage. The area below the diamond is the territory of F class. When you see this, you may have doubts that Class F is clearly in the front row, but in reality, at the beginning of the stage, Class F only provides the camera with a panoramic view of the stage, or does not allow them to go on stage at all. The camera is focused on the upper part of the stage centered around Class A. Shen Qi only felt the cruelty of the stage for the first time when he saw it, and the atmosphere suddenly became somewhat oppressive. After hearing the director's explanation, several trainees wearing gray training uniforms had red eyes, as if they were about to cry. Shen Qi sensitively heard low sobs in the crowd and turned his head to see a group of trainees wearing gray training clothes. Seeing the color of the clothes, he looked a bit stunned. His gaze swept through the gray training suit trainees, trying to find Hein's face in it. Hein is still the same, tall and stands out among the trainees, even his face. The faces of the other trainees are blurry from afar, except for his 3-dimensional features, which seem to have added high-definition special effects and look very handsome. They looked at each other through the crowd, the signal was a bit off, and Shen Qi couldn't read the meaning conveyed in this guy's eyes. Who would have thought this guy was a little facial paralysis, only seeing Hein's hands clenched tightly against his pants. He must be sad. Shen Qi could tell from last night's practice that this guy is actually very strong, or rather stubborn and terrifying. Perhaps just as he mentioned that he used to be a member of sports, he could imagine that this kind of person would have a strong attachment to excellence. Shen Qi was transferred in midway and replaced by the retired trainee, so he became a member of Class A. It is said that there were 2 rounds of selection for Class A before, one was the initial evaluation, and the second was the evaluation of the theme song. The results of the first and second rounds recorded him as A. This is a strange feeling, like he gave up his dream once due to a leg injury, and the retired trainee also gave up this opportunity because of illness. If it weren't for the system, tempting him to participate in competitions with healthy legs, perhaps he would never return to the stage in his lifetime. He felt that no matter what, he must be worthy of this gift of fate. Next, the staff began to line up classes A, B, and C respectively, asking them to stand on the stage, while Class F stayed in place and watched them go up. This is really frustrating. The person in charge of their Class A is actually a familiar face, which is Elsa, whom I saw in the front office. When Shen Qi's gaze met, she even nodded slightly. She arranged the trainees in the predetermined positions. Yuan Haokong was chosen as the C position by everyone, standing in the center without a doubt. His pride was so obvious on his face, and his youthful spirit shone like a rising sun, shining but not dazzling. When he saw Shen Qi, he even blinked at him and made a gesture of encouragement. After a break, he walked over to Shen Qi's side, patted his shoulder, and whispered in his ear, "Don't embarrass me, master." He then reached out his fist and touched Shen Qi. Afterwards, he returned to the middle of the crowd and everyone surrounded him, like stars and moons. The excitement on everyone's faces was obvious, and their young faces were filled with anticipation for the future. Shen Qi's position was relatively backward, as he had hoped, standing in a relatively backward and off-center position, giving him a sense of security. After all, for now, he is not suitable for showing his sharpness. There are only 8 people in Class A in total. Yuan Haokong is in the middle and is in position C, while Yang Ning, who is paired with him, is right next to him. There is also a person standing on his right side, and the two of them are like left and right protectors, which can also be considered as Deputy C. Except for the seats of these 3 people, the rest of the seats are nothing. In the back row, the camera sometimes passes by them when shooting at the front row, and if you're in a good mood, you may give them a close up. After they had all arranged their positions, music was played on site for everyone to queue up, and the spacing was adjusted before jumping again. This is a strange feeling, and Shen Qi unconsciously became much more serious, perhaps because there were still audience members standing below. Those F-class trainees wearing gray training uniforms. I don't know how many times the music was played, but when Shen Qi calmed down and paid attention to the audience, the group of trainees in gray training clothes also started dancing with them to the music. That's what Elsa said in the director's ear. Finally, the director nodded, and Elsa called the group of F-class trainees onto the stage and arranged a simple formation for them. When the music started playing again, the somewhat stagnant feeling in Shen Xiaoxin's heart disappeared. When the 10 o'clock bell faintly came in from outside, Shen Qi realized that the night's training had just passed. Although the studio is large, the lights are on and around 100 people stay inside. Jumping down all night is extremely hot and stuffy. However, Shen Qi felt that his brain was incredibly clear, and even his body felt incredibly light and carefree from sweating profusely. When the director said he would disband, he suddenly rushed into the crowd of Class F and gave Hein a big hug. Hein felt the weight on his body and looked at him inexplicably. Shen Qi's eyes are also very beautiful, especially his somewhat unusual pupil color, which is amber brown, slightly too light to be demon-like. If exposed to sunlight, it is the almost transparent light brown, as if in addition to a sun in the sky, there is also a small sun in his eyes. Although it is late at night and there is no sunlight, the artificial lighting indoors makes the environment bright and warm. Shen Qi looked at his face and smiled, speaking loudly in his ear. "Thank you, brother." Although Hein didn't understand why he suddenly went crazy again, let alone say thank you, seeing the smile on his face, he still laughed as if infected. But he still wanted to say, "Get off me quickly, you're really sweating profusely." Shen Qi laughed heartily and casually pulled his sweat-soaked bangs behind his head, while his other hand habitually rested on Hein's shoulder. Laughing and cursing, "I haven't despised you yet. Let's go back to the dormitory and take a shower." The next day, they continued to practice in the practice room as usual. Shen Qi also made up for the initial stage assessment, which can be considered as another form of completing the 48-hour challenge of learning it. After filming, my heart relaxed a lot and a knowing smile appeared at the end. He thought, "I should be worthy of this A." Afterwards, this video will be uploaded together with the videos of 100 other trainees and appear in the audience's field of vision. The next morning, they were awakened by the dormitory manager before dawn, saying they needed to put on makeup. Today was the last day of the rehearsal, and they had to officially record it tonight. When we arrived at the dressing room, it was crowded with people lined up, yawning drowsily. Shen Qi's spirit is also quite good. This may still be due to the output of the system. For example, the daily pasting task can be stacked. So when he rubbed against Heinz Simmons' soft bed, even though the bed in the dormitory was relatively large and 1.8 meters wide, he would choose to shamelessly lean against their shoulders. After an unconscious night of pasting, he realized that besides saving up a lot of healthy time, it was also a big bug for his energy recovery. For example, he can soak in the practice room for more than 12 hours in the future. So, his relationship with Hein is also rapidly advancing now. The system shows that their favorability has reached 70. Shen Qi estimated in his heart that he should be considered a relatively iron brother. However, compared to Shen Qiao's lively demeanor, Hein wore a mask this morning, which was rare in addition to wearing a hat. He was leaning against the wall, closing his eyes and recuperating. It seemed that Shen Qiao's gaze fell on his face, and he forcefully lowered his hat, blending his entire face with black. Shen Qi finally understood. Hein, this guy, hasn't even made his debut yet, he's just carrying tons of idle baggage. Are you still afraid of looking haggard without makeup? As his roommate, what hasn't he seen? Then he found Chen Jiaming, a cute little girl, in the crowd. Unlike everyone's obviously haggard and tired faces after waking up early, this guy can be called radiant. At this moment, he stood in the crowd and said something vigorously to everyone. Shen Qi squeezed in and could hear what he was saying. This brand of emergency face cream is not afraid to stay up late and get up early. Look at my face, I can't see the signs of staying up late. Pair it with this eye cream again, it can effectively remove dark circles, swollen eyes, and blisters. Speaking, Chen Jiaming also saw Shen Qiao. He pulled her over and applied something around his eyes. Shen Qi was watched by the crowd in frustration and whispered to him, "What are you doing?" Chen Jiaming also whispered in his ear and said, "Please cooperate with me." After Chen Jiaming finished painting, she showed Shen Qi's face 360 degrees to everyone and said, "Look, are the dark circles under your eyes all gone?" Shen Qi. Brother doesn't have dark circles under his eyes, that's natural beauty. Someone in the crowd was saying, "There really aren't black circles under your eyes." Shen Qi. What brand is this? Say it again, I asked my agent to bring it to me. I'll search on Taobao. Where did you buy it? It's so user-friendly, how much does it cost? Chen Jiaming smiled slightly and said, "My friend is a purchasing agent. You can add me on WeChat, and I told him to deliver it next time. The price is actually not expensive." Chen Jiaming blinked and said the sky-high price. Shen Qiaotian's eyes stuttered with anger, and he glanced at Chen Jiaming. This was an unscrupulous merchant, and this was a butcher. What could be so expensive? Some people in the crowd also asked him, "It's so expensive to sell, and it depends on the effect. It's not like adding hormones, is it?" Chen Jiaming, with a calm face, held up the bottle of face cream, read them a list of chemical ingredients like a heavenly book, and added at the end, "No side effects, the ingredients are very safe." Shen Qi thought to himself, "I almost believed it." A voice sounded, "I want it, how can I buy it? Can you give it to me now? I'll add money." Everyone's eyes shifted and they were startled, wondering where the little cutie came from. Little cutie is not necessarily cute, but he is indeed a fair and tender young man. At this moment, the young man raised his hand and opened his mouth, throwing money like a wealthy man. Chen Jiaming certainly wouldn't miss this opportunity to make a fortune. He held the small hand of the wealthy and beautiful young man, and the two happily added WeChat. After the beautiful boy freely transferred the money to him, Chen Jiaming gave him both face cream and eye cream. Seeing that the sales promotion was so successful, he also talked about his skin care experience, which was like sisters walking together all their lives. Shen Qi is simply inexplicable. As he watched everyone gather around listening to teacher Chen's skincare class, he realized that he was actually an outsider. Chapter 8. Initial Stage. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When it was Shen Qiao's turn to sit in front of the dressing table, he habitually looked up at the makeup artist. Why is it you again? Chen Jiaming rolled her eyes and said, "What does it mean to be me again?" My friends are too busy to come and ask me to help. The makeup artist next to him heard it and explained, don't worry, Xiao Ming is very professional. Then he said to Chen Jiming, when I'm done today, I'll send you a big red envelope. Shen Qi was absent-minded and casually asked, Xiao Ming, who is Xiao Ming? Chen Jiming glared at Shen Qiao in the mirror. The makeup artist next to him noticed a slip of the tongue and quickly covered his mouth with a fake smile, saying, I was talking about Jiming. I almost forgot that he had changed his name. Change your name. What a normal thing, isn't everyone giving a nice stage name? The makeup artist could not stop talking. I know Jiming from his hometown, and we knew each other long ago. He didn't change his name at that time. At that time, the little sisters laughed wildly when they heard his name. Shen Qi glanced at the makeup artist a few more times. He is also a male makeup artist, dressed in fancy clothes, with a very white face and brown eyebrows dyed. Upon closer inspection, he can still feel that his face is a bit strange, as if something is stuffed inside, popping out loud. The tone of the speech also seems a bit eerie. Looking at Chen Jiming's expression in the mirror again, her nose was already crooked with anger. The atmosphere was a bit awkward, and Shen Qiao didn't want to speak anymore, but the makeup artist was clearly speaking with enthusiasm. You don't know Jiming's original name, do you? The next second, the makeup artist's phone rang, and he answered the call and walked outside. Chen Jiming took out a bottle of liquid foundation from bottles. Chen Jiming said, do you see this bottle of liquid foundation? Shen Qi was puzzled and said, I saw it. What's wrong? Chen Jiming opened it and applied a color test on her fair hand. There was a noticeable dark mark on the back of her hand, which seemed to have rubbed against a layer of coal ash. He whispered in Shen Qiao's ear and threatened, gossip won't kill you. If you dare to force me around, I'll wipe your face. Shen Qi sat on the chair trembling. But next, Chen Jiming continued to demonstrate her professional makeup skills as always. But in the end, I had a disagreement with Shen Qiao on the choice of eyeshadow color. Try this rose bean paste color, I think it works. Shen Qi shook his head and said, it's too red, isn't it? What about this orange one? Shen Qi shook his head again. What about blue? It's quite unique. Can you not apply eyeshadow? It's strange. Chen Jiming glared at him and whispered in his ear, look at what others have painted, and think carefully. Shen Qi looked around for a moment. The pink eyeshadow made by the all-in-one color assembly line, the beautiful peach blossom plate popular this year, is uniformly on different faces. It is this color that is really attractive. One by one, they have become single eyelid puffy eyes. In addition, the puffiness of going to bed late and getting up early makes them too hot to look straight at. Shen Buckwheat swallowed saliva, but the dead duck said hard. I just don't want to wear eyeshadow. Chen Jiming angrily said, I'll force you to paint black powder again. Upon hearing this, Shen Qiao nodded in agreement and said, then let's go black. Chen Jiming. In Shen Qiao's worldview, black is equivalent to coolness and non-femininity, while in Chen Jiming's eyes, black is equivalent to non-mainstream and burying love for the family. In the end, Chen Jiming compromised and gave him a small smoky and shiny appearance, which was quite seductive. Shen Qi had no idea at all, but felt that he had a unique personality, was very punk, and at first glance had the style of a rock star he liked. He was very satisfied, and Chen Jiming also invited him to take a group photo together. When taking a group photo, Shen Qiao was stunned again. Chen Jiming opened a beauty app, selected a filter, and the two appeared in the camera. Shen Qi's eyes twitched as he looked at it. Is this a beauty that humans can create? Am I still human-like? The thin face, shaved skin, and big eyes made Sun Wukong want to say, hey. My fiery eyes are about to see your true form. Looking at the camera, Chen Jiming was still standing behind him with great cunning, pursing her oily lips. Under the beauty filter, the whole thing looks like a high school student with young teeth, with a small face that is pink and tender, and big eyes that are watery and agile. They are all old fairies, still pretending to be tender. Unfortunately, Shen Qi became a snake spirit in the camera, hands down. The hair was made for him by another stylist, different from the fluffy and airy feeling that Chen Jiaming gave him last time. This stylist straightened his slightly curved hair, which looked much longer than usual, and then trimmed it again. The bangs are parted on both sides, revealing a sharp and handsome eyebrow shape. His hair is of good quality, black like satin, and the final cut of the hairstyle is quite artistic, with a hint of a runway model's aura. If moved, it appears elegant and agile. Chen Jiaming was putting on makeup for the trainee next to him, and seeing his newly made hairstyle, she couldn't help but praise his somewhat vampire-like temperament. Surprisingly, it matched well with his small smoke, with a hint of sinister melancholy. Shen Qi doesn't feel much about it. I've had a more artistic style before, with long hair. I didn't expect it. Unfortunately, one day during a birthday party with friends, he accidentally blew out a candle and the candle on the birthday cake burned his hair. He then painfully cut his long hair and made up his mind to only use electronic candles in the future. Before the official filming stage, the trainees also wore training uniforms and filmed some rehearsal footage together, which were the materials needed for the main film. On the spot of the rehearsal, the mentors also came, probably to highlight their professional character. When watching them rehearse from the audience, they were quite serious and even discussed with the director with serious expressions. The host and mentor of the program, Yi Fanyun, although not currently the largest domestic entertainment star, is also a popular little fresh meat. He used to be a singer, but later acted in idol dramas, attracting countless fans, and can barely be considered the little king of film, television, and music. Yi Fanyun's appearance is naturally handsome and extraordinary, and her attire is also fashionable, creating a sense of familiarity. She is specially designed to meet the needs of the program team as a reputable handsome male mentor. There are also vocal, dance, and rap mentors. In addition to selecting a few members invited from idol groups that have become popular overseas, they also hired a popular and outdated veteran singer from the music industry. One of the mentors is still the legitimate senior brother of Yuan Haokong and his company. Just before the recording of the program, that senior came over to greet Yuan Haokong's group, showing a certain degree of brotherly friendship. Shen Qi stood in the back row, carefully dancing to the music and humming to it with his mouth open. He had already practiced very well and appeared more confident and casual in front of the camera. He thought he hadn't danced for a year, so he might not be able to keep up. But muscle memory told him that his 3-year practice foundation was not in vain, and his efforts would shine. He didn't even think about what the camera was shooting or whether it would capture him. All he had in mind was to try his best to do every action well. After filming this scene, the staff asked them to go back and change into another set of school uniforms, which were also specially customized. They wore them when taking formula photos before, and as mentioned earlier, the copy of the style was pretty good. So when everyone puts them on, they are all tall, leggy, and elegant young men with high looks, and miraculously, they also wear the aristocratic temperament of the original overseas prestigious school. Shen Qi was also among them, shamelessly looking at his beauty in front of the mirror before confidently setting off. Everyone put on their clothes to prepare for the official stage recording. Shen Qiao stood up in her position and waited for the director to start. All the lights in the room went out, and in the darkness, one could only hear the beating of their chest. Their fingers couldn't help but curl up, feeling numb and their palms itchy. He knows that the initial stage is very important, and under this competition system, it can directly affect whether he can make his debut. Or, starting from a high position as the young master of the Shen group, I received elite education from a young age. How could he have no ambition? The sound of music quickly eased the suffocating tension. As the prelude sounded, the stage lights also turned on one by one, and soon the whole room was lit up. Even the floor under my feet was equipped with LED tubes, as if I was truly immersed in the starlight of the universe. Everything you see is light, but standing on stage, you must have your most shining confidence. Shining, radiance, I am the brightest tonight. Make up, put on your new outfit and wait for tonight's protagonist to appear. Shen Qi's mind is now very clear and his mind is completely focused. After a few days of practice, his muscles have also developed memories. Almost every beat is played, and he can perform it like flowing clouds and water. His dance moves are smooth and pleasing to the eye. Tonight's starlight is shining brightly, shining brightly. Darling, please let me take you to soar to the summit of the stars. This song was already recorded in the recording studio before Shen Qi came here. Although there was no sound from him, as for him, there were not more than 20 people grabbing the sound. The difficulty is not too high either. Although there are high notes, Shen Qi learned them 2 or 3 times and could sing them. However, the lyrics are difficult to remember and there is not much logic involved. Fortunately, brainwashing is a pre-order for future street slang songs. Dance with flying steps, please keep your eyes on me. The lighting changes, music accompanies, and I am the most confident king on the dance floor. Let's go. Join us and set the tide of the times. Please also wave your hand and call for me at the end. Every encouragement from you stirs in my heart. The starlight of support illuminates the way forward, dispelling confusion, the bravery and stubbornness of the youth, stirring the heart and soul. The road ahead is full of blooming flowers, composing brilliance together. As the final climax progressed, Yuan Haokong, the center of the stage, stood at the forefront of the central stage, where there was a lifting platform to lift him up until the end of the song, which was also a special reward for the C. position. Finally, he stopped at a height of 1 meter. Behind him are trainees from Class A, all of whom are facing on either side, surrounded by the rising C. position in the middle, creating a realistic constellation of stars. With a loud bang, the fireworks exploded in the air, which was a signal. There was still a short accompaniment that was not played, which was blank without any dance movements. Although everyone couldn't help but gasp for breath after jumping because of the nervousness and dedication they had just experienced, they still couldn't relax. Because the camera suddenly zoomed in, everyone's carefully designed fixed point movements for the stage were faithfully recorded by the camera. This shot is very valuable because it provides a continuous close-up of the entire face, which is definitely a great opportunity to attract fans and even become famous overnight. Shen Qi still remembers the fixed point action designed by Yuan Haokong, which was a big fork he had previously compared with his teammates, and then divided his hands to compare their hearts, perhaps with some modifications. This is also the agreement between Yuan Haokong and his teammates, where the X represents their Dragon X, which must be preserved. It is also the pride and honor he brought with his teammates to ascend to position C. Shen Qi never thought about creating any action on his own. Although he had a devilish face, he was still a straight and determined man who didn't really like flashy things. So he chose the broad and profound inaction, which means letting nature take its course and letting others play around, while I remain steadfast. However, the bangs jumped and shifted, causing a slight irritation to his eyes. He raised his head slightly, shook his hair slightly, and unconsciously moved his eyebrows, as if someone's heart was being stirred at this moment. His eyes flickered and he glanced at the camera in a somewhat casual manner. Let everything take its course, just in the moment you fall in love with me. Chapter 9. Selection of Personnel. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Afterwards, they danced a few more times, but the fireworks were only released once and never let go. According to the director, this can save a little bit. Finally, after the stage recording is completed, the mentors under the stage are all adjusted and ready to speak. Firstly, there is the fashionable man standing next to the director, who is Yi Yun Fan, the host and mentor of the program. If the main character of this program is this group of trainees, he is the most important supporting role. The program has almost been recorded for 3 episodes, during which Yi Fanyun also came to the program team to record for 3 or 4 days. This is his fourth time coming to the program site. Yi Fanyun was talking to the director off stage. The stage was quite far away, and he couldn't hear what was being said below. However, he could see the camera working seriously off stage. Then several other mentors also expressed their opinions. At this moment, the director is also very skilled in acting, listening to them with a serious expression, and then nodding in coordination to meet the personality needs of each mentor. Shen Qi felt a bit pleased. This director is just a tool man, right? In fact, his gaze was more on the only girl among his mentors. She was also a popular member of the current girl group and had just returned from overseas. She was invited to participate in a domestic talent show and played the role of a dance mentor, which was quite eye-catching. Because this girl walks in a soft, cute and pure manner, even if she is wearing a spicy girl suit with a girl group style, she still chooses pure white. The pleated skirt length is on the knee, revealing her fair and straight calves. Exquisite facial features, black and straight, even the lips have a faint pink color. Of course, Shen Qi only watched with a pure appreciation of beauty, without any further feelings. As someone who had long aspired to become a big star and shine on stage, he has always maintained his idol consciousness. Including guarding oneself like a jade. Well, it seems impossible to say. After the group play between the mentors on stage was completed, Yi Fanyun walked onto the stage and stood at the front of the central stage of Class A. Hello everyone, welcome to the live broadcast of the program Bang Ran Xing Dong. My name is Yi Fanyun. Next, please watch the stage of the 101 trainees behind me. Dreams set sail from this moment. This short sentence was actually recorded 3 times. The extinguished lights around slowly lit up again. Shen Qi stood behind in a somewhat bored daze, until he heard cheers coming from somewhere, and the whole room began to boil. He looked up and saw that Yuan Haokong had already left the place where he was standing and came to his teammates. They formed a circle and hugged each other. These are his closest teammates, sharing a common dream, laughing and cheering at this moment. Not only them, but almost everyone was laughing. It was only then that he understood the meaning of Yi Fanyun's line earlier, dreams set sail from this moment, and suddenly realized that this was a new beginning. He was also infected by everyone's laughter while standing in the crowd, with a rare genuine smile on his face and a hand on his shoulder at some point. That was the trainee who was originally standing next to him. Even during these 2 or 3 days of rehearsals, they didn't speak more than 10 sentences. At this moment, they leaned together affectionately, like their closest friends, with smiles on their faces. Then someone loudly said, "Take a big group photo, everyone stand together." Someone grabbed his hand in the crowd and took him to the middle position to stand. Before he was ready, the photographer shouted, "Eggplant." In the chaos, he heard several reminders of the system strategy target generation, but he didn't pay any attention as if he hadn't heard them. The photo froze, and many faces that had previously laughed wildly put their expressions aside and faced the camera with a stern expression. Because the conscious idols at all times make them aware that their expressions will collapse when they smile, their eyes fixed firmly on the camera, and there is still a residual smile in their eyes, like starlight. The following scene is somewhat like the scene on graduation day, where everyone competes to take photos, and the photos at this time will inevitably become one of the most precious memories. Shen Qi didn't know how many completely unfamiliar trainees he was taking a photo with. They took a photo together with members of Class A, and he even somehow got mixed into Dragon.X's group photo. Yang Ning also roast. Hello everyone, this is Shen Qiao, a member of our family and friends group. Yuan Haokong followed with the following sentence. From now on, I will appoint Shen Qiao as the president of our Dragon X Global Fan Support Association. Sua Sichuan cooperated and made the gesture of scattering flowers. Scatter flowers. Okay, we need to meet the demands of our fans now. Let's take a photo together, said Xiang Hua, who is also a skilled actor. Then Shen Qi was surrounded by Yuan Haokong and Wang Changyun and stood in a group photo of Dragon X, becoming the true, sixth person, in the group. Other events that happened are not insignificant, but what is more certain is that many memorable stories happened tonight. The matter of the theme song has come to an end, and the progress of the upcoming program cannot fall behind. This group of trainees will face the next challenge. The first round of competition, and everyone will gather in the activity hall with excitement. The rules of the competition will be based on audience voting, and the most important part at this time is the selection of songs and teammates, because now we need to break up these 100 trainees again and compete in groups. The originally empty activity hall immediately became extremely noisy with the arrival of these 100 trainees. Shen Qi followed the trainee next to him, and just now he was holding his hand in the crowd. His name is Qi Sheng, and he is also a member of Class A, with a somewhat transparent temperament. Of course, it does not mean that he has no sense of existence at all. As long as you pay attention to him, it is still easy to find that he is very good looking, at least charismatic. Even that somewhat transparent temperament is more like a disguise, inexplicably with a mysterious sense of exploration. Shen Qi asked him, "Where are the people in your company?" Qi Sheng said nonchalantly, "Oh, no, I came alone." Shen Qi was somewhat surprised and nodded, "Me too." Upon hearing Shen Qi's answer, Qi Sheng smiled as if he had already understood. "Well, I know." Shen Qi was a little curious and said, "What else do you know? Did you come in through a shift change?" Upon hearing this, Shen Xiaozhen was truly surprised, although the production team did not conceal any information about the contestants withdrawing from the competition or the possibility of new substitute contestants. But after he arrived, he found that these trainees seemed to have no idea what had happened. But this is a place where the environment is so closed and the personnel are so concentrated, and everyone is not distracted by the strange things that happen in these programs. Perhaps all of this is what Shen Xiao thinks, perhaps everyone is tacit but not explicit. Just like this Qi Sheng, he is very intelligent. "Everyone knows now," said Shen Qi tentatively. Qi Sheng nodded. Shen Qi suddenly felt bored, thinking that everyone thought he was a related party. So the voice changed and he said softly, "Then you have to follow me, maybe you can have more camera footage." Then he stared closely at Qi Sheng's expression, but Qi Sheng suddenly chuckled. "What are you thinking?" After finishing speaking, he reached out and touched Shen Xiao's head. His hair was very soft and smooth, and it felt like cold satin to the touch. Shen Qi didn't like his behavior that seemed to tease children. He turned his head to avoid it, but accidentally bumped into another trainee next to him. He didn't recognize that face and apologized proactively, but the trainee accurately called out his name and smiled, saying it was okay. With such an interruption, Shen Xiao felt like he had overthought earlier. At this moment, Qi Sheng quietly leaned in his ear and said, "Okay, then I'll follow you and take more shots." As he said this, he blinked his eyes. Shen Xiao noticed that his eyes were also painted with the standard red eyeshadow. But unlike other trainees who looked very disharmonious on their faces, the faint crimson hid around his eyes, making his skin very white and his eyes very lively. It looked like a naturally seductive light red at the end of his eyes, as if he was drunk. It also made his skin pink and white, with almost no visible pores, and he looked very clear under the light. His hairstyle is also simple with short black hair, trimmed relatively short, leaving scattered hair on the forehead, just revealing the eyebrows below. The eyebrows were also trimmed very clean, and interestingly, there was a small mole at the end of the eyebrow. As his expression relaxed, the mole was like a finishing touch, making his eyebrows look like spring mountains and his eyes like paint. Shen Qi looked a few more times but didn't dare to look anymore. He turned his head and looked forward again, a bit unnatural. That face is not only stunning, but it is also very refreshing and durable, and gives people a feeling that is more and more flavorful with each grade. There is also a touch of classical beauty in the temperament of a handsome man, which may be suitable for playing the white-clad villain in TV dramas. On the surface, he approaches the protagonist as a good brother, but eventually turns around and becomes the biggest boss, easily stabbing the protagonist. Afterwards, the selection of songs and teammates mostly relied on God rolling the dice. Shen Qi, relying on the luck of Tian Xian's son, obtained the right to choose songs. Looking at the wall covered with many song titles, he calmed down for a moment. He reached out and pinched his thigh, which didn't hurt at all. Is this just entertainment? Exhausted drool songs, Too High's TikTok divine music, and some songs he has never heard before. You pinched my thigh, Qi Sheng said as he stood behind him. Yes, Qi Sheng, the lucky one, became the chosen son of Shen. Looking behind Shen Qiao, his team was filled with beautiful men of all colors, with a few faces that Shen Qiao could only remember by face and not by name. Quietly speaking, this selection opportunity was just a cheat given to him by the system. He disdains to have it. The System 101, which is even more lecherous than Chen Zheming, directly reports a person's name in Shen Xiaoming's mind, with a strong attitude of selecting an emperor's consort. And Shen Qiao just wanted to choose the song he wanted. It's a bit frustrating to say, because he himself wants to team up with Yuan Haokong. Because Yuan Haokong serves as the center, he can prioritize selecting teammates. Judging from Yuan Haokong's strong strength, coupled with his enthusiastic teaching before, he is not secretive. All made Shen Qiao think he was a good teammate. So he frantically hinted to Yuan Haokong, even surpassing their group's X gesture to suggest pulling him onto the car quickly. As a result, Yuan Haokong skipped this gesture and chose someone else afterwards. Shen Qi asked Yuan Haokong why he didn't choose him, and Yuan Haokong even said wrongly, didn't Shen Qi make a gesture of not choosing him? Didn't you cross me? Shen Qi. Oh, that fork. I'm implying to you, isn't this your group's gesture? Yuan Haokong said, This time it's Yuan Haokong's turn to remain silent. Yuan Haokong said, I truly deserve to be the president of our Dragon.X Global Fan Support Association. I am truly touched. As she spoke, she grabbed Shen Qiao's hand and shed a few precious tears of cat urine. Chapter 10. Song Selection. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Shen Qi looked at the song posted on the wall with a puzzled expression. He decided to consult with his team members and said, which song should we choose? Beauty number 1. I can do anything. Beauty number 2. Whatever. The third handsome man nodded and said, Shen Qi. When I saw the beautiful man number 4, Qi Sheng, again, the other person raised their hand. Shen Qi nodded and said, what do you want to say? Qi Sheng pointed to the ground and said, your shoelaces are untied. Shen Qi. Quietly squatting down and tying his shoelaces, Shen Qi had a thought when he got up. Since you haven't mentioned what you want to choose, let's use the exclusion method. Shen Qi asked again, is there any song you don't want to choose? Don't want an English song, thought Mainan number 1 for a moment. Shen Qi. Good buddy, I know your English is not very good. Beauty number 2. Do you dance less? Shen Qi. Alright, the formation should converge. Beauty number 3. Shen Qi. Is this guy so cold? More pretentious than me. It was Qi Sheng's turn to be the fourth most beautiful man. Before he could speak, Shen Qi patted his shoulder and said, the class representative is you. Hurry up, rule out which songs are left. Qi Sheng looked at it for a while and slowly spoke up, there are still 4 options left, crush, addiction, electric shock, and gunfire. Crash means crash in addition to being tempted. 4 pairs of eyes were fixed on Shen Qiao, waiting for his choice. Shen Qi said, aren't these 4 ways to die? I won't choose any more. After speaking, he looked at Qi Sheng and said, Qin, choose one way to die quickly. Qi Xing said speechlessly, did your Chinese language be taught by a physical education teacher? Shen Qi couldn't say, okay, let's rule it out again. I have a driver's license and can swim, so that's all I have left behind are crush and drowning. At this point, the handsome man suggested, why don't we take a look at what other candidates are looking for? Shen Qiao nodded and said, you're right. Then everyone turned their attention to Yuan Haokong's group at the same time. There's no way, as the first center in the program, Yuan Haokong is already a highly anticipated presence among trainees, and everyone should naturally pay attention to his choices. Yuan Haokong was the first to select team members just now, so the team they formed is also visibly strong. Not colliding with them is a wise choice. Yuan Haokong and his team selected Crush. Qi Xing spoke up and said, so we should also choose Crush. Is it because the young man's mind is not very good when he smashes you? Shen Qi gave him a glare and said, are you stupid? Just to be safe, I'm sure I won't collide with them. Qi Xing. Do you know who is standing in front of you, and I think our team's strength is not bad. With him, Rong Xuexuan, Xiang Dongyang, Zhong Lan, they are already very strong. Oh, there is also an unknown strength Shen Qi. But he really has a feeling that their team is not weaker than Yuan Haokong's team. If you really hit a car, wouldn't the race be even better? Coincidentally, I am also a bit unwilling. But the other few people tend not to compete with Yuan Haokong's group. At first glance, they are all fragrant and beautiful men who are not in conflict with the world. Qi Hailian, who secretly wanted to arch the fire, said, Finally, they chose the song, Addiction. In the practice room, 5 people sat in groups, holding the lyrics in their hands. Shen Qi swept over the handsome faces in the team and once again discovered the unreliability of the color demon system in picking people. Look at some people, not just those who look like flowers and compete with each other. Actually, it's just a vase, pure decoration, especially a special Buddhist style, which is neither contested nor snatched. It doesn't reflect the intense competition in the draft at all, just like selecting the C position and captain next. Let's first choose position C, who wants to register. A silence fell. Shen Qi's gaze fell on their faces one by one, and they all looked back calmly, with doubts and expectations in their eyes, but only without the eagerness to become a C. position. Does anyone want to be in the C position? Shen Qiao asked again, feeling resentful that iron cannot be made into steel. The key is that Shen Qiao actually has a bit of a desire to be a part of this variety show. He doesn't want to debut or become a C. So, what are you doing here? But his concern is that he knows the flaws in his appearance. Being too handsome can also be troublesome, often mistaken for being a scheming loser, especially with a strong and aggressive appearance. If I really become a C, I guess in the eyes of others, it's just putting ambition on my face. System 101 Timely Roast. In fact, he looks like a fox spirit and can rob men very well. Shen Qi. You shut up. It would be great if we could compete fairly with our teammates, relying on our strength and reputation. Alright now, everyone is watching. The campaign for the C. spot is not interesting either. In silence, the beautiful man number 1 twisted his body and Shen Xiaomian looked at him with approval. Xiang Dongyang, then the center is you. Mainan number 1, also known as Xiang Dongyang, twisted his body again and struggled to speak. I want to go to WC. Shen Qi. But struggled for a moment. What do you think of as C? I think. Qi Xing coldly assisted beside him, he wants to be C. Okay, Shen Qi pasted the C symbol on Xiang Dongyang's chest, patted the capital letter, C, and smiled. Go early, come back early. Afterwards, we still had to choose a team leader, and everyone continued to follow the Buddhist tradition. After thinking for a moment, Shen Xiaozhi decided to adopt a method of breaking down one by one. First, the second handsome man said, Zhong Lan, how about you being the captain? The second beautiful man, also known as Zhong Lan, had a fake smile from the flight attendant who had exposed 8 teeth. She shook her head and said, "It's not very good." Shen Qiaoxin thought to herself that perhaps the way she asked the question was not quite right, so she changed her sentence structure when speaking to the third beauty. Rong Shuoxuan, please make your campaign statement. Beauty number 3, Rong Shuoxuan. What did I say? The routine was successful, and Shen Qiao applauded in unison. Okay, raise your hand if you agree to let Rong Shuoxuan be the team leader. Very good, all votes passed. He stood up and placed the L that marked the captain on his chest. Then there is the split section. As the newly appointed team leader, everyone is waiting for Rong Shuoxuan to speak up and assign. In the silence, Rong Shuoxuan closed herself for a while before slowly speaking up. Well, let's start selecting parts now. Is there a candidate for A? No one responded. Rong Shuoxuan rubbed her eyebrows a bit tired and said, then I'll choose A. What about B? Raise your hand to Dongyang and say, I. C. Qi Sheng. I choose C. D part. Zhong Lan. I can. Finally, there's E left. There's a high note, Shen Qiao. Can you sing? Rong Shuoxuan looked at Shen Qiao. Shen Qi thought for a moment, feeling somewhat uncertain. How high is it? Rong Shuoxuan said, can I get on C3? After speaking, she opened her mouth and demonstrated to him. Shen Qi followed suit and sang at once. Rong Shuoxuan. It's possible. Through Rong Shuoxuan's opening of her voice, Shen Qi sighed inwardly that the team had not chosen the wrong person, and the captain had not chosen the wrong person. Rong Shuoxuan is clearly a must-have lead singer for a male band. She is handsome and has a beautiful voice, making her an absolute weapon in performance. Take their chosen song, Indulgence, as an example. It is a lyrical song mainly sung, and singing skills are particularly important here. Of course, there are also corresponding choreography, but compared to other dynamic and explosive stages, the dance movements of this song are not very difficult. After selecting a song, it's time to practice. When it comes to vocal lessons, their group also attends classes with another group. Apart from them, there is also another team to choose from for this song, and the competition format is a competition between Group A and Group B. The vocal mentor is Sun Yun, a male singer who became famous very early on. Now he is an uncle and not very popular. Shen Qiao has an impression of him and even heard his songs when he was young. He looks like a handsome uncle with a refined temperament, wearing a casual and comfortable outfit. He wears a light green slim-fit jacket paired with a white shirt and black casual pants, with a slim figure and no middle-aged greasiness at all. When giving them a lecture, their voice was gentle and it was evident that their temper was gentle. The original intention of inviting these mentors for the program is only to create momentum and add some topics to the lineup. In fact, the role of these mentors is not significant, only as icing on the cake. When Sun Yun arrived, the trainees had already practiced for 2 days and could basically sing songs. He first greeted the trainees in the classroom, received their cheers and praise, and then sat straight in front of the piano. The music field is his specialty, and he doesn't have much interest in chatting with this group of trainees. After all, he didn't participate in this program to compete with trainees in terms of appearance and hard work. He just wanted everyone to recognize his professional abilities. Sun Yun didn't have too much nonsense, so he asked the trainees to sing and listen to him first, and then find some questions. First, Shen Qi and his group sang first. Without any music accompaniment, Sun Yun sat at the piano and personally accompanied them, appearing even quieter. Rong Shuoxuan was part of A. After the prelude ended, he was the first to speak. The prelude to the piano sound is smooth and beautiful, creating a lyrical atmosphere in an instant. Your love is indulgence, blame me for being too obsessed, like a sharp knife cutting through me, tormenting my heart. The prelude to this song is very catchy, followed by Rong Shuoxuan's almost kneeling fairy voice. Yes, during their group private practice, everyone basically understood the level of the group members. Rong Shuoxuan is a well-equipped lead vocalist with strong abilities, especially with the voice line of the Heavenly Sky, which is a rare ethereal male voice with immortal aura. When she speaks, it feels like she can hear someone reciting poetry on a snowy mountain. The vast expanse of snow is the same as the sky, and her voice seems to seep out from a distant sky or a quiet snow pool, making people feel goosebumps. Sun Yun gave Rong Shuoxuan a surprised look. Next is the part towards Dongyang Bi. Paranoia has become sex, I have become addicted to loving you, smoothed out my temper, and become less like myself. Qi Xing spoke up, choosing the fast-paced part of the lyrical song that leans towards intensity. It's too easy to tell lies, but those who listen pretend to be foolish to the end. Saying too many love stories is like waste paper. We shouldn't have sworn in the beginning, making you a sinner and me a fool. Zhong Lan immediately said, head heavy, foot light, spirit and flesh separated, testing you on the edge of hell, falling step by step, slowly unable to breathe. Finally, Shen Qi said, if love is indulgence, you deprive me of courage, get used to playing tricks, and from then on, my lover will only pretend. Shen Qi's voice is also very distinctive, which can be said to be a little stunning. The feeling of hallucination and laziness is like the intoxicating alcohol that makes people feel intoxicated and unconsciously addicted. Sun Yun nodded and the 10 fingers on the piano crossed the keys, gradually increasing the scale. Your love is indulgence. The sound of the piano came to a sudden halt. Because Shen Qiao sang a split note. Sun Yun stopped to look at Shen Qiao, and everyone in the practice room's gaze fell on him. I'm sorry, Shen Qiaoxian apologized. Sun Yun nodded and didn't say much about him. He skipped Shen Qiao's part and continued playing. The rest of the time was mostly focused on singing, and there were no more accidents. Then let the next group prepare. The other group also sang Addiction. According to the competition format, there are a total of 10 songs, each with 2 groups to perform. These 2 groups naturally formed a competitive relationship, serving as controls, and then voted by the on-site audience. Another group of members includes Xiao Zai, Xue Qiqi, Zhao Yeshen, Yuqin, and Li Changman. The piano sounded again, and Xiao Zai's group performed very smoothly with almost no problems. In addition, their singing also had some small surprises. Li Changman's textured mid to low notes and rich aged wine were as rich as before. He had mostly sung folk songs before, and when he sang heartfelt love songs, he became even more adept and captivating. And then the segment that Shen Qiao sang just now, which was the most difficult, was Xiao Zai's part. He was also one of the few talented singers among these 100 trainees. His voice was clear and clean, and due to his delicate and emotional performance, he perfectly mastered the high notes. After listening to the 2 groups of performances, Sun Yun briefly evaluated them one by one. It was Shen Qi's turn to say, isn't this segment not suitable for you? Can you sing it well on a regular basis? Shen Qi smiled awkwardly, but with that face on her face, she looked like a mischievous kitten, watching as her owner handed her a pleasing smile. Sun Yun didn't give him much trouble either. He tapped a few notes on the piano with his fingers and came to the scene where Shen Qiao had just sung and split. Can you sing along? Shen Qi took a deep breath and closed her eyes. Your love is indulgence. Struggling or not waking up from dreams. I played very steadily this time. The accompaniment stopped, and Sun Yun's faint voice came. Well, let's stop here. After more practice after class, the perfect singing is all due to diligence, and very few rely on talent. The words seemed to indicate something. Shen Qi had to nod repeatedly.